Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 269. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor is once again in the void. I'm sure he'll come back to us soon enough, but that is not today.
Not today. Not today.
Rejoice or commiserate, depending on your mood.
He took his ball and went home. Or he's drunk, one of the two.
Oh, it's Connor, so what sort of ball are we thinking here? It's probably like a...
He likes, I don't know, he does like soccer.
I suppose.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's Connor. It's a billiard ball.
Yeah, I was thinking...
He loves the snooker.
Like a shuttlecock?
And that's not a ball, though.
No, but it's,
You're just like saying that word like I do.
It's a stand-in for a ball, though. You know, it's...
Yeah, it is.
It's the equivalent of a tennis ball, yeah. But for you know...
God, badminton's such a stupid sport.
Well, it's just tennis with a different...
It's tennis meets volleyball.
Device.
With a dumb object. Also, this has nothing to do with me not being good at it ever. At all. So...
I think the appeal of badminton for the players is that because it's got a bit more of a... You know, a gliding, because it's not a ball, it's got a bit of a float to it, right? So it's got more of a sort of natural come down, so you've got more time to kind of perfect your hit. Yeah. Whereas tennis is a bit more, you know.
This is where Pete reveals he is a badminton champ. It's the only sport he's ever played.
No, it was in the rotation in PE in high school, so I played as much of that as I did anything else that we ever did.
Gotcha.
But you know, that said though, I did see a clip of someone hitting a baseball with a steel chair this week. So that was a thing.
Yeah, you did.
Dude, Skype froze there for a second, so I felt like you were really drawing out the suspense of that reaction for a split second.
No, all I said was, yeah, you did, and then it froze, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna wait.
Yes.
Comes back, Skype's a real piece of work.
No, that was the right choice. But hey, yes. So this is a DC Comics show.
Chairman hit an RBI in softball.
Yes.
With a steel chair. It was pretty wild.
I mean, I imagine it's easier to hit the ball. I mean, the chair's got a lot more surface.
Surface area, but just the fact and it's a softball, more surface area there too, you know. But still, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. When we played softball in PE in high school, because we didn't have actual softballs, we were still just using baseballs. The only difference was that it was thrown like a softball.
Yeah, so you're throwing underhand, just 4 people in the outfield. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what it is. Anyway, DC Comics podcast. We get together. We talk about the DC Comics we've read this week. Coming up on this week's show is a 5th week, so obviously it's going to be a shorter list than perhaps normal. We got Aquaman's 80th anniversary super spectacular underwater special, and
underwhelming.
And you've got Infinite Frontier issue 5, Batman Fierce Day Alpha issue 1, and Wonder Girl issue 3. I was going to do a Patreon book, but after reading one of the other books this week, I did not want to read another comic book for quite some time. More on that soon. So I'll do that next week. But yes, that's what's coming up on this week's show. There's a little bit of news as well, of course, but not too much. You know, it's one of those weird end of week or end of month weeks. Now, admittedly, by the time we actually record this and put the episode out, it's obviously the start of the next month. But like in terms of the comic weeks, it's the end of the month.
It's the end.
Yeah. So yeah, that is pretty much it. There's some news, and the first bit of news is potentially worrying if you're a digital reader. Digital
reader.
So obviously Amazon bought ComiXology ages ago. This has been years at this point. You've been suggested to integrate your accounts, right? If you've got an Amazon account, you've been tempted to merge it with your ComiXology account, and they've been suggesting that for about 5 years or something like that at this point. Which I think many people have, because there's no reason why not to. Plus, if you do merge it, it means anything you buy. If there's like a sale on Kindle, but not on ComiXology, if you buy it on the Kindle, you get it on ComiXology as well. So there's no reason not to merge them. You have nothing but benefits for merging them. But Coming soon. It sounds like ComiXology is just going to integrate with Amazon, and it's just going to be the Amazon like comics app and Amazon Comics Store. The reason why I say this is maybe slightly worrying is that as of right now, Amazon's version of buying comics is not that good, and there's like no shopping cart, so you can't like multi-buy things. You just buy things one at a time. The functionalities there, and the worst possible thing about this is that this could be a problem for the ComiXology top 10 if they don't have their own top 10 to look at.
Oh, darn!
On a weekly basis. We might be in trouble there for that segment. I may have to find another top 10 to look at every week. I'll find something. Don't worry.
Yes, I'll find it.
So somehow sales figures will return. Don't you worry.
Yay.
But yeah, I mean, they're claiming it'll be faster download speeds. I'm like, they're comic books. Why? They should not have been a problem before. They're not that big.
Yeah. I know when I downloaded stuff at work on the off of the Wi-Fi, it takes like 20 seconds instead of 5. But that's because my work has poor signal. But yeah, I don't know how much faster it needs to be.
I mean, on my internet, it shouldn't be taking more than a couple of seconds for a comic book to download. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure why it would get any really faster that's perceivable to my human like senses. But whatever, they want to try and jazz it up and make it sound sexy. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I guess we all kind of figured this would maybe happen at some point, and like for whatever reason, they maybe want to just sort of start to get away from the ComiXology branding and just make it Amazon's thing. And like on surface level, there's no reason why that has to be bad necessarily, but it's just like, I mean, they're saying that it'll like Prime will be a thing where maybe you get access to some of the ComiXology Unlimited stuff if you're a Prime member and stuff like that. So maybe that's nice, but honestly, like content wise, there's no concerns. Like everything's still going to be there. I think the only concerns is that, much like anything, when you have a perfectly working app that everyone's used to using, and then you go to something that's less, iterated and less advanced and is still got kinks to work out, all of a sudden a lot of the functionality you had before is suddenly maybe not quite there to the same extent. So
yeah, it's like when stuff moves from one streaming service to a different one, or the different apps, and you're just used to the way that you had it, and so the new way just sucks, So it's like, well, why didn't you just port the way it already was? Like it wasn't broken. So
yeah, so some concerns there, but I mean, I'm sure like anything that is missing or anything that is wrong with it, they will fix over time. It's just really annoying that we may have to go through that phase of them having to fix things when there's nothing wrong with how ComiXology works right now. So, so that potentially is a little bit sucky, but hey, I guess we'll just all have to get through it and get on with our lives. One note I did see, this is not mentioned in any of the articles, but I saw people asking about this on Twitter. So one of the things that ComiXology does on top of having regular big sales is that sometimes the sales are discount codes rather than just direct sales pages. And because Amazon doesn't really do that, it does mean the days of the buy one get one free sales code and stuff like that won't exist. So the other big bad news about this is that if you were lucky and if you timed it well, sometimes you could get overlapping sales from before, where you could get the buy one free get one free sales code to work while another sale was like active, and you could actually really make bank with some really, really cheap comics. It sounds like those days are probably also done because the codes are just not going to be a thing anymore. So that also kind of sucks. Admittedly, it was cheating the system a little bit, so I can see why they're not that fussed about taking that away from us, but it is another downside. So keep that in mind, folks. So that's that news. Not great news, but not disastrous, I suppose. The other thing, just a small thing, Daniel Sampere, the artist, has signed a new exclusive contract with DC, and just teased that there's some. He's excited about drawing some of his favorite characters in some upcoming projects that he can't announce yet. So, big things possibly coming. But Sampere's art's been very good.
Very good. Embarrassment of riches. So it's a shame we're losing him on action, but he seemed super stoked for whatever he was working on. and if it's like a much bigger project in the DCU, then awesome, because that art needs to be seen by more people.
Yeah, he's mostly worked with DC for the past decade, but this is I don't know if this is the first time it's officially been an exclusive contract or if it's just a new exclusive contract, but
it had been little stuff here and there, right? Like he did a couple fill-in issues on like Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was stuff like here and there. So to him to be one of the premier, names that all our favorite writers are gonna work with, that's very exciting.
Yeah, the books that are listed here in the article, he's worked on Batgirl, Injustice, Justice League Dark, Suicide Squad, and Mortal Kombat X. So
yeah,
obviously currently on Action. So yeah. That's cool. Obviously a creator we like, and every time we have this MP on a book, it means we don't have a JRJR on a book, and that's a win.
That's a win.
That's just a win. There's no two ways about it. So that's cool. For some reason, I broke format slightly in this and did the news before the ComiXology Top 10, but don't worry, there's always time for everyone's favorite segment, the ComiXology Top 10.
That's okay. We can go through news. It's fine.
Oh, that's all the news. That's done. We just had
great.
We just had two things.
What other news can I find?
I used to think that you didn't like the ComiXology Top 10 because it extended the length of the show. But if you're going to try and draw out the news before we get to it, then it's just going to make the show longer.
I did the same. I don't know if they're still up, but the old movie show we used to do, talking about box office, I used to feel the same way. Just numbers ranked.
I mean, if people want us to add a box office numbers section to the comics podcast, I'm more than happy to add that as a bonus segment.
I've already have seen the movie Twitter. I'm fed up with at this point. I'm gonna stick back to hockey. I can't wait for hockey season to start. Back to hockey. Don't have to deal with overexcited people spoiling Shang-Chi for me before I get a chance to see it. Like, I get it, man, and the person that I'm talking about will never see this. And that's fine. But like, you don't need a 15 tweet thread on everything. All right. Just like something.
I have a sneaking suspicion that I know who you're talking about.
Yes. And it's not on purpose. It's not like this person goes out there, but they get very excited. And like, I don't know, maybe this, bitter itter person here, I don't know, but like, I get it.
I'll be honest, I completely didn't realize that was out this week until people started tweeting about it, and I was like, oh, I guess that came out this week, which shows you it shows you where I'm at in terms of comic book movies right now, that I'm just not even paying attention to when they're being released.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this because this looks like the Iron Fist that I wanted the show to be. So it just happens to be a different character, but there's a lot of the same vibes. It looks like they're really leading into the martial arts aspect and not the business debacle, which because when I think of Iron Fist, I think of the company shenanigans.
Yes, and of course, if the Meachums have got a selection of ice cream, and if they do have a selection of ice cream for their loyal assistant, do they in fact have any vanilla? That's the important thing in that show.
Yes. But yeah, so no, I'm excited for Shang-Chi, and so just to go on there, last night, after eating dinner and watching Monster Squad, just browsing and seeing spoilers. And again, they're not hard spoilers, but it's just stuff that I would have liked to see on my own.
I am completely indifferent as of right now, and I guess I'll see it when I feel like it after about 45 days or so. Which is the window, apparently, when it comes to Disney Plus. That's the
yes. Which I get. I get with you, and after Black Widow, I get not rushing out. I like that significantly more than you did. So I get your hesitancy.
Yeah, I mean, if this was available at home, I might, take the leap, but it ain't. So I'm good. And I'm feeling kind of similar, indifferent to Immortals. Eternals. That's what it's called.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. People are very excited for it, and I don't like. Good. I'm glad you're excited for it. The Eternals aren't a property I'm at all familiar. Like, I at least knew who Shang-Chi is. Like, I knew who he was so much that I was saying his name incorrectly for the entire time I've been reading comics, you know? So, but I knew who that character was. The Eternals, I know they're a Jack Kirby thing, I think.
I believe that's correct.
And I know
yeah.
it ties in with something to do with Cannonball from the X-Men. I know he got thrown around as an Eternal. Outside of that, I don't know. But that's one I probably am not gonna rush out for. You know, like.
I mean, I don't know them from comics. I didn't know Shang-Chi from comics. I didn't know Guardians from the Galaxy from comics either. All the trailers just feel the same now. I just don't care.
No, they do. But this one had, at least Shang-Chi had the great song in it that I like to hear. So, that was a bonus. By the way, I found Slither on, speaking of Guardians, I found Slither on Prime right now. So if anybody hasn't seen it and wants to see James Gunn at his grossest, it's there. You like Suicide Squad? We're gonna watch. Yeah, I'm gonna have my wife watch Slither. She's never seen it. And I've warned her. I think she's seen his other movies. Just that's the one that has escaped her.
Nathan Fillion is phenomenal in that film.
Yes.
You also got Michael Rooker in there. It's a hell of a little cast.
It's a fun B movie. So you brought up Guardians. Same guy. You're gonna get Whiplash. Don't watch those back to back.
Yes. Oh, speaking of Whiplash, Miles Teller, I've been saying for years, that man is a prick. He just comes across to me, he's got such a punchable, prickish face, and it turns out he is a prick. So you know what? I'll accept everyone's apologies.
Yep. Yeah. It takes to play the type of characters he does, there has to be a little bit of it in there. But I was like, oh, he's just an actor. Seeing what he did this time around, it's just like, bro.
And that's not to say that I hate everything's bred. I still love Too Old to Die Young because Refn is a genius and one of the current great minds in cinema, and etc. etc. But yes, I feel. But actually, cue the clip of Brooklyn Nine-Nine of Holt saying "Vindication." That's Vindication. There you go.
How are you feeling about Villeneuve's Dune? Because I don't care.
I think it looks very pretty, and I'm excited because he's a good filmmaker.
Okay. That is the most political I've ever heard you.
Well, I mean, the trailer looks good. I think it has a very distinct visual style, and I'm definitely more into that trailer and more into that movie than I am any of the superhero trailers that I've seen recently.
Wow.
So, I'm sick of superhero movies right now. I really am. Like, the only one that I am remotely excited for is Matt Reeves' Batman, because everything that's coming out about that movie sounds like people have been saying things like, oh, Riddler's kind of like Zodiac killer-esque.
Yeah. Like out of I heard out of a Fincher movie.
It just,
and that's where I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm hearing things about it that make it sound like it's making it sound like a unique movie as opposed to, oh, it's just another superhero movie.
Well, I see all the hype for Dune, and you know how I feel about hard sci-fi. And after Blade Runner 2049, I don't trust any. I just don't.
Yeah,
so.
But to give some benefit of the doubt to Mr. Villeneuve, because I'm not super huge on 2049, although I think it is visually quite stunning. That is a sequel to a really dull movie. So
true.
So
I finally had this realization about 2 weeks ago, to where I just don't think I like Blade Runner. I like parts of it. I love the aesthetic. I love Rutger Hauer's Tears in the Rain speech.
Mate, you're saying things that I just said when we reviewed it on the Ace like a couple of months ago. Well, actually no. Huh? We did the sequel like a month ago. The first one we did like a year ago. But when we reviewed that, this is basically what I said. Is it looks great, it sounds great. That speech that Rutger Hauer gives at the end is phenomenal, and I want to see the movie that speech belongs to, because that speech belongs to a much better movie. But the actual storyline of Blade Runner, right? Because all the concepts are great. The concepts of these replicants and the right to live and the right to have 3 lives and all the rest of it, all great stuff. But the actual storyline of that movie is Harrison Ford going enhance, and then having lots of dull conversations with people as he tracks these replicants down.
Yeah.
It is so dull.
And someone goes, "Oh, you just don't like detective stories." No, I do. I love a good like I up until a certain point I defended True Detective season 2 based off of the mystery. Okay, and it ultimately fell apart.
Yeah, you're on your own with that one. That season was shit.
No, that fell apart. I should say half through. About 2 or 3 episodes in, I was like, "Oh, let's see where this is going," and I was defending it, and then it fell apart completely in the last section.
Also, the other problem with the original Blade Runner is that the romance element is completely forced, and they have no chemistry, and it's I don't buy it. So
no, and then so after 2049, I really want to love it because it's 2 of my favorite actors, right? You got Gosling, you got Harrison Ford, and I'm gonna be honest with everybody. I fell asleep. Everyone that I brought, we was off for my birthday. Everybody was with me. We all took a nap, and middle of the day too. This ain't no late night showing. Man, Dolesville. And again, I liked a lot of what it was trying to say. The visuals were amazing. I love that neon look, in the dystopia. But yeah, so I had the realization on Twitter the other day that I go, here's our take of it. Neither of them are good. Like, if you like them, cool. Like, I'm a guy that defends Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. All right, I know what bad movies are. All right.
I mean,
but
both Blade Runners are better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I'll say that.
No way, sir. Because at least Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is fun.
No. I need to make this clear because I'm going to be lumped in with you based on the fact that we share some sentiments on Blade Runner. I want to make it very clear right now that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a worse movie than both Blade Runners. I want to make that known that is where I stand on this subject. Okay,
sir, please. David edits these, right? Insert the uncut gems. I disagree. Right here.
Well, David splits it up for the individual YouTube videos, and this part probably won't be in any of those. This part will just be on the full episode. Well,
still, I'm not going to try to do Sandler, but I disagree.
This is Tangent City, and the Tangent City parts are exclusive to the full episodes.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of full episodes, let's get on with this stupid list. And the top 10, we can talk about comics, and I can go lift some weights and see Shang-Chi.
Oh, dear. I will not be seeing Shang-Chi today. Thank you very much.
No, Pete. You guys, let's get a social media movement going to make Pete watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Why?
Because it's fun.
But of all the things to expel your effort on, why that? Why making me watch a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for the first time in 13 years?
Oh, man. I watch that movie at least once a year. I have a problem.
You do have a problem. God, you with Crystal Skull, talking Superman with Quest for Peace. Like, everyone's got their weird, like...
I'm not saying it's the best sequel. In fact, it's the worst Indiana Jones movie. However, it's still a lot of fun. And I would rather have fun in a bad movie than be bored to sleep by a classic. Yeah, I'm using finger quotes for the listeners.
You say that, but like a modern dumb movie is just as boring to me, or more boring because it's inane.
Yeah, but Crystal Skull, this is a conversation for a whole other time. People beat up on Crystal Skull because the internet tells them they should beat up on Crystal Skull. It's not the best Indiana Jones movie, but I wouldn't say it's a bad movie. It
is a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie.
It's a boring bad movie.
No.
Yeah. In fact, you know what? I want to say something, right? I haven't watched the whole movie because I haven't seen it in a long time. But I did see the first 5-10 minutes of Last Crusade. Yeah. Now I still like that movie, but I do want to say that revisiting the opening, the flashback part of that movie, is that I do think it's actually really silly that everything that makes Indiana Jones happens in the space of about 1 10-minute section of his whole life.
Yeah, it's great. It's that's what makes it so pulpy. It's a subset. Like, again, this is where George Lucas is a genius when it comes to stuff like storytelling, not directing, mind you, but in storytelling, you got to see the iconic origins of our titular hero set against a story that is supposed to be his last. Last is in, so you see where he started, and he rides off into the sunset at the end. You know. Again, Lucas had some moments. He hasn't had any in a very long time, but in 1989, he had some moments.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hashtag make Pete watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. KOTCS.
Hashtag Blade Runner is better than Crystal Skull.
Million dollar question, Pete. You got to watch one. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Attack of the Clones.
Oh, Crystal Skull.
There you go.
If it's between
Attack
those,
if it's actually a bad movie.
If it's
that's the difference. That's an actual bad movie.
No. You're just lowering the bar so much right now. They're both bad movies, but one's a bad movie and the other one's one of the worst movies ever made. Right? That's the two layers here we're looking at.
I'm just saying it's an objectively bad movie. Whereas Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
You're talking about a 4 out of 10, a 1 out of 10. They're both bad, but they're still at those levels. This is why ranking
stuff is done, Pete, because Crystal Skull is at least a 6 out of 10.
That's just delusional. That's mad talk. That's like this chaos is what it is.
Dogs and cats living together.
This is deluded loving quest for peace levels of delusion. All right, that's what that is. All right.
Because Indiana Jones is the full title. How come when I go to Wiki and I type in Kingdom of the, it's not one of the first things that comes up? Then I forgot. Oh yeah, they added the whole.
Because no one wants to talk about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's why. Even Google's like, you sure? Hey. You sure you didn't mean like Mulholland Drive or something better?
So I'll just say, not that Rotten Tomatoes is the end all be all. Rotten Tomatoes has got a 78%. So. It's
that is. Do you know what that is, Matt? That is proof that the Rotten Tomatoes system is flawed. That's what that is.
Right. And we're gonna go to the Attack of the Clones.
I bet this is far too high. The critics love to jerk off the Star Wars cock. They love it.
Oh, don't say that. I hate that sentence.
They do.
65%.
That is absurd. That is an absurd score for that movie.
It's easily the worst Star Wars movie.
I agree with that. It's the worst one.
Yeah.
And I'm a lot lower overall for Star Wars, but that is easily the worst one.
This is why I wish Connor could weigh in, and his stupid generation would probably be like, there's some actual good elements to Attack of the Clones, and I'm like, I'm not here for this.
I see these people who are like, Revenge of the Sith's actually quite good. Like, piss off. No, it's not. Revenge of the Sith is garbage. Anyway.
I'm one of the people that have said that, so I take that as an attack.
Look, Phantom Menace is a shitty movie, but it's the best of those three, okay? Phantom Menace is better than Revenge of the Sith.
The best, because Pete, out of anybody that would appreciate Anakin killing younglings, it should be you.
Yeah, that idea is good. That one scene is pretty good, but...
Child murder.
But the rest of it, the actual tragedy of him turning bad, is a bunch of nonsense. I don't care. You don't make me like this version of Anakin. I don't care about his dumb, weird, creepy girlfriend that was much older than him in the first movie. What are you going?
You ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
The what now?
You ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Darth Plagueis the Wise. I thought you said Darth plagiarizes the Wise, but okay, go on.
No, that's how Anakin's downfall begins. It is with that story from the Emperor. Oh man,
I hate this so much, Matt. I hate all of it.
Let's talk about the top and your Comicsology list.
Yes. Comicsology top 10, everyone. Timestamps do.
Last time I drink 2 cups of coffee before I come on.
Timestamps do exist for a reason, just in case you're mad at us for that tangent. There's timestamps in the description always. All right, so what do you think number 1 is, Matt? Top 10 DC book.
From this week, let's see. Is it a DC or a Marvel?
It is a DC book.
Let's go Fear State Alpha.
It is. If in doubt, go Batman. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Hellions. Issue 15?
That's an X book.
Yes, it is, yes.
Oh, it's got Psylocke and Mr. Sinister on the cover. What is this, the 90s?
Maybe. I don't know. Then we got Infinite Frontier issue 5 at number 3, so that's doing well enough.
Good showing.
Yeah, it's not bad. Then you got Star Wars The High Republic issue 9. And at number 5, we got New Mutants issue 21. And then we got Avengers 48 at number 6. Is that a new run, or is that still Aaron's like numbering? I know it's not
Aaron's. I'm so behind on Marvel. I'm not sure. I do know I fell off with the Heroic Age stuff that they were doing. Not the Heroic Age, Heroes Reborn. So
it's still him. I assumed that he still finished writing it, but I was just wondering if it was the same volume. Like, part of me thought that because Marvel sometimes double ship so much that maybe they started a new series and then that got up to 40. I guess they slowed down and it's been one a month for a while then. But so that's number 6. Number 7 is Dark Ages issue 1, another Marvel book. And then we got Sinister War issue 4, also Marvel. Then we got Rivers of London issue 9.3. What
is that?
What is this? This is from Titan Comics. I have no idea what this is or why it's. It's obviously an indie book, but I don't know why it's such a hit on ComiXology apparently. But fair play to it. Good for it.
Yeah.
Good for it. Then number 10, we do actually sneak in one more DC book. Wonder Girl issue 3 sneaks in at number 10, so that's nice at least. Batman Superman annuals just after that at 11, and the Midnighter annuals just a couple below that, and then that's pretty much.
Where's Marvel's Dark Ages at?
That was number 7.
Oh, it's 7. Okay, I missed that part because I was looking for Rivers of London on here. They don't come up alphabetical, so it messes me up. Did you pick up Dark Ages?
No.
No, because that's Tom Taylor's new one over at Marvel.
Yeah, I am aware it's Tom Taylor. I mean, maybe I'll read it later if I hear it's great.
Gotcha.
But
anything with his name on it, my shop puts in to my box for me. So I picked it up on a whim. I haven't read it yet, but he's doing the old how many of your favorites am I going to kill shtick, and it's actually funny when it's people you don't care about. You know, when it's not beloved DC characters. You can look back and laugh. Yeah,
so. There's a DC sale of some kind on just now because I'm noticing that both parts of Doomsday Clock, Why the Last Man, book 3, not even volume 3, it's book 3, it's the thicker one. So, in fact, that's actually a really good price. Book 3, which is like 10 issues of Why the Last Man, is only $2.39 in UK pricing. Are all 5 of the volumes that price? Because that's actually really good. They are. So you can actually get the entire Why the Last Man run right now for basically like $15 to $20. That's all 60 issues.
Read all that for the show.
Yeah, the show's starting soon this month. So, which is
so Rivers of London is based off of a book series. So it looks like it's a comic adaptation of a popular fantasy series, which would make sense why it's so high.
That's neat.
Yeah. So, inquiring minds wanted to know.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff on sale as well. It seems it might be a line-wide sale just because it's like a spattern of different things. Yeah, it's Labor Day sale, so it's line-wide. Okay.
Yeah.
To be fair though, those prices look very good compared to normal. So that is a super late. Like in fact, those prices are lower than they used to be, which is surprising given that these sale prices got really bad when all the comic book prices changed. In the UK or in Europe not that long ago, like a couple of years ago. So this is easily the cheapest I've seen of things. So if anyone wants any DC trades on ComiXology, I would recommend going and checking them out. The sale ends on the 6th of the month, which is Tuesday. So when this goes up, you'll have a couple of days to go buy stuff. So go look. All right, there you go. That's the ComiXology top 10 for the week. I think that was fine, Matt. You got through it.
Barely.
You got through it. It's fine. We survived. All right, let's talk about some comic books then. Aquaman 80th anniversary super spectacular issue 1 is what we'll start off the show with. I'll give you all the story creators in a second when I get the contents page up, but I will start off by saying that this is probably the worst of these 80th anniversary specials that we've ever had.
I'm glad I'm not the only person, because I did not enjoy reading this.
I mean, I didn't enjoy reading that. I will say it's not terrible. It's not like, I wouldn't say like all the stories are terrible, but as a whole, it's just so mundane and just mediocre that
there's no flow to the stories. Whereas I felt like a lot of the other 80th kind of had a lot of fun. Like, think about that Liam Sharp story in the Catwoman one, right? They kind of played with her origins and time as Catwoman, like the different stuff. There's none of that here. Like, these are all just like a smattering of Aquaman stories, and honestly, I feel my dude Arthur deserves a little bit better.
Yeah,
you know? This one definitely felt like a cash grab.
What's annoying about this is that I often bring up a problem I have with these anthology books, which is that a lot of the stories, even when some of them by very good writers, fail to be good stories on their own, and they tend to be these weird snapshots where they've got one idea, right, one statement they want to make about a character, and they'll tell a story that's not really that much of a story. It'll just kind of make that point, and that's it, and then it's over. And you don't really feel like you've gotten much of a journey out of it. You don't feel like you've gotten much of an arc out of it. It's just kind of a statement. And this suffered from a lot of that. It also suffered from not having really any kind of showpiece. Like, usually there's one or two that are really great, and you can sort of like, okay, that's your tentpole stories, and then the rest kind of make up the rest. It didn't really have that. You know, the ones by the few creators that I really like in this, they weren't bad, but they weren't like special or that amazing.
And here's the thing, like, there's no like yeah, you have a Jeff Johns story, and he had a big huge run on the character, but like, where was the Abnett story?
That was surprising. You know? Yeah, I was surprised.
And where was the Kelly Sue, who just wrapped up the most recent, solo title? And it's just like, I don't know. Again, these all just felt like stories they had lying around, and they just threw them all together so Aquaman can have an 80th, which I get especially salty about this, pun not intended, that there's no Aquaman book out right now. So, like,
there's about to be two in a way.
Two minis, though, right? Like, they're not ongoing.
Well, yeah, but there were some articles this week saying about how the Aquaman, Rising one's setting up more Aquaman stuff for next year. So there's going to be more family stuff.
Well, that's at least light at the end of the tunnel, but I still, on this one, like, there's no, I don't know. It didn't feel like it was necessary. Not that any of these are, but like, it didn't even feel like a celebration of the character. There's like, here's some Aquaman. Here's some Aquaman stories.
I mean, you can say a bunch of that. I mean, you can say why are some of these multiple creators missing. I mean, they may just not want to do it. I mean, it may not necessarily be DC's fault, Especially like Kelly Sue, I could see being just gone because she's not really around doing anything else. I mean, I find it hard to believe that Dan Abnett's not raring to go, but whatever. But I mean, I want to ignore all of that and just look at the quality of stories themselves. And basically, what it boils down to is that this is an 100-page, 80th anniversary special, which is all of the stories that feel like the ones that make up the rest, rather than it's missing those 2 or 3 really good stories, and then the rest kind of make up the numbers. This is just stories making up the numbers, and ultimately that's very, very unfulfilling to read. There was one that I did hate reading, but we'll get to that when we get there. Anyway, I'll read you the list of stories and creators, because I'm not going to necessarily know them all at the start of each story. So the first one is called Foxtail. That's by Jeff Parker, and I was delighted to see his name. It's been a while, and I do want more Jeff Parker books at DC. That's Doc Shaner on art for that one. And then there's Father's Day by Jeff Johns with Paul Pelletier on the art. And then we got Lady in the Lake by Michael Moretti with Pop Man on art. And then Multitudes by Stephanie Phillips with Hendry Presetia on art. And then we got It's a Family Affair with Sean Aldridge writing and Tom Derenick on art. And then we got The Rain Maidens with Margaret Bennett writing and Trung Lee Win on art. And then Between Two Shores, Kevin Scott writing with Scott Eaton on art. Then What Remains of the Storm by Dan Waters writing and Miguel Bedoncha on art. And then Rebellion, Dan Jurgens writing, Steve Epting on art. Red Sea, that's Chuck Brown writing with Valentine DeLandro on art. No, that's Chuck Berry. I was about to crack a joke, but no, it's Chuck Berry's the artist.
Not Chuck Brown.
Uh,
It was not Marvin Brown.
no. That's your cousin Marvin. You know that new comic writing style you've been looking for?
Yeah, you know that's the storytelling style you've been looking for?
Yeah, well, look at this. And then foreshadows the final story with Brandon Thomas writing with Diego Olortigue. If I'm probably butchering that last name, apologies, but
no, close enough. That's what I would go with.
Yeah. So I would say out of all these stories, there's one that I'm going to be somewhat positive of, and I don't know if you'll guess which one it is, but
no, there were 3 that I enjoyed. All right, the rest
Sure.
of them were just kind of middling. One I thought the voice was really bad for.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll get there.
Yep. I was feeling kind of down on the art for a lot of these, and then it did pick up towards the end, but there was a few in the row that were better. But there was definitely a and not the first one. I mean, Doc Shaner obviously is very good, but after that, I felt like there was a bit of a weird big gap for me in terms of good art. But anyway, so yeah, the Foxtail. This is about a giant sea creature that's trapped a submarine in the ocean, and Aquaman tries to get the creature to let go, but can't. And then it turns out that it's actually the sub's like sonar weapon that's like hitting it, that's causing chaos with it. So basically, Aquaman has to deflect a missile and eventually take the hit, and then disable the weapon. It lets the sea creature finally let go. He has a little flashback moment to when he had to learn about how his dog like would have something in his ear. Yeah, basically the idea that he's used to like sea creatures just like doing what he tells them to, or understanding what he's asking. But he had to learn that the reason why the dog's acting weird is because he's got something stuck in his fur, and this was kind of the same logic.
Yeah, which this felt very much like an Aquaman story though. Like this I would have expected in like an annual type of story, where it shows Arthur's relationship to what's going on in the ocean, and how most of his superheroics is stuff like, hey, why are you messing with my realm here?
Oh, for sure.
So of course,
I want to make it clear.
It kicked off pretty well.
I want to make it clear that I don't think this story's bad. I actually think it's perfectly fine. It's just, and it is one of the better ones. Sadly, I when I read this before I read the rest of the book, if you told me this was one of the better ones, I would have felt a bit disappointed, because I think with this one I was like, I really like Jeff Parker's stuff with Aquaman, and this I was kind of expecting maybe a bit more than this was. Like it's fine, even good, but it wasn't necessarily like up to the expectations I had. But yeah, that's basically the story. And he says, you're going to stay away from the the waters with your weapons, or else, and sends them back. He lets some whales guide them home.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically that first story. The art's very good though, because it is Doc Shaner.
The art, yeah, it's Doc Shaner art. It's really good. You can tell, he has a vibe for Arthur that he likes to capture, where it's in that kind of pulpy Doc Shaner style, but also feels modern at the same time. So it's cool to see Shaner on something like this, because I'm only used to seeing him on the Strange Adventures vibe, or what else has he done? He's done a couple smaller stories here and there.
There's a lot. He tends to hire him to do a lot of the new covers for the Silver Age omnibuses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they'll have to get him for that.
But this, you could tell he was having a lot of fun. Like the sea creature looks real cool. So it's fun to see him drawing that type of stuff too.
Yeah, I thought the interiors on the sub look good, I thought, with the red light and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, this is starting off pretty okay. And all right, no issues yet. And then we got to then we get to like pinups, where why in a 100-page.
Well, they're not pinups; they're actually just old covers.
Old covers.
The most interesting thing about it is that it has so the first one's like one of the Sejic Aquaman covers, and it says first appearance at the bottom. So each of these covers are of a different character. So then the second one that's right after it's Mira, and it's like first appearance Aquaman 11 1963. That was the most interesting thing about these. Because I was like, oh, some of these other, not Mira so much, but I was like, oh, when was the first appearance of Ocean Master? When was the first appearance of so and so?
Right.
But they're not. Yeah, most of these other specials got new pin-ups done by artists for
Yeah.
these things.
And that's where I get it. Now I was like, that was my first clue that something was off. Because I was like, well, cool. I like seeing Cedric art, but this was the cover. This isn't a new Cedric piece.
Yeah. And I recognized the Mira one, which is also by Cedric. I didn't recognize all of them, but I'm assuming they were all old covers, just because that was the trend in this book. Which, it just makes you feel a bit more budget. It feels like, oh, they didn't pay some artists to do some new art.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was a bit weird. Yeah, then we have a Jackson story about his relationship with Black Manta and how they actually meet once a year on Father's Day as a weird kind of father-son get-together. And the conversation apparently always goes the way Jackson says, you need to turn yourself in for all your crimes. And then Black Manta says no. And then they fight. And then and then Jackson is really, really sad because Black Manta's not really there. It's basically that beat in Spider-Man Homecoming where Tony's not really there and he's pissed about it. Apparently this happens every year. Do you know what really got me about this? And this is the Jeff Johns story, right? Yeah. So I'm shitting on Jeff Johns here, which is not something I normally do when it comes to his writing because I tend to like it. But this to me is like, so there's that great episode of Batman the Animated Series that establishes that every year on Christmas Eve, maybe it's New Year's Eve, Batman and Jim Gordon meet for a drink, right? For a coffee or some pie or something. And it's a tradition that they started doing. This is like a really crappy version of that, where the idea that they have this same fight every year is actually really silly.
Well, it's like, how long has Jackson known that Black Manta's his dad?
Yeah, he's still like a teenager, right? So
yeah. So like, they've been doing this for 2 years?
Maybe at the most 4. Like at the absolute most 4.
Yeah. And I like both creators. I like Pelletier's art. I mean, John's one of my favorite writers of all time. This just felt lazy. I
mean, I'm okay with the idea that they're meeting once a day every year, and it's actually kind of sweet. But as the story went on, it revealed that they always have this fight, and it always ends with he's not really here. It's just a robot that he's talking through. Like, really? That's every year? I don't know. It made it all just feel really stupid. I don't know. Yeah. So it was like, okay, the Jeff Johns story was a disappointment. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign for one of these.
And there's so much there too that's in the layers, like what we know about Black Manta and his dad, right? And how they were close. And then so of course I like the idea that like deep down Black Manta wants a relationship with his son, but he also has to keep up his Black Manta shtick. But it spends most of the time with Jackson yelling at him that you're a bad guy. And it's just like I don't understand this story, you know.
Nope. Should we have been rating these as we go? Are we rating these? I don't know. I kind of want to. I think it'll be funny. The first one's a 7, and then this second one, for me was like a 5. What were you saying, Matt?
I liked the last. So I'll say the first one was an 8, and this one was like a. I'll give him more points than I should because I like the art. It was a 6.
Let's see. How low can we go? How low?
Oh, it's gonna get real low.
Next up, so it's Aquaman and Garth. This is the Moretti story. Now, I think Moretti did some fill-in issues Aquaman, if I remember right, and I don't remember liking them that much, which is not a good sign. Also, the art here, Pop Man. I don't know if I feel like I might have liked some Pop Man art at some point, but I don't like it here.
I feel like here there's too much of the sheen, so that could be the ink and the coloring. But I agree. There's been Popman stuff that showed up before. I think it was in the
Super Sons.
Catwoman.
I was
maybe Super Sons.
Yeah, I think maybe some Super Sun stuff by Popman.
Maybe I just remember I remember the name popping up in a special thing like this.
Oh, did the Robin? Did Popman pop up? Did the name pop up?
It did.
Yeah, I don't know. So this is just a story where they go to fight some villain, some generic. Was it Vivian? Some purple cloak.
So it's the Lady of the Lake.
Okay. That's right. This gets all Arthur. Legend. Yeah, because she starts talking about taking the sword out of the stone. It's mostly just them fighting with lots of like art. Honestly, the art in this, it had that kind of like I'm having a hard time paying attention and looking at the layouts because it's just all just kind of blending together and looking kind of lots of squiggles, lots of purple magic energy firing about. And once you get to it being just straight up King Arthur stuff, like I'm just kind of like falling asleep at that point. But
Yeah.
I know Connor probably. I don't think he's going to read this because he's missing this week and he won't go back and read this big 100-page special. But
yeah, I thought of Connor as well with this one, but even with this, I was just like, okay, we're doing King Arthur. I get it, Arthur.
Well, that's not why I thought. I didn't think of Connor for that. I thought of Connor because this was a disappointment, and when I think disappointment, I think Connor. It also just happened to have King Arthur stuff in it, but
yeah, that's a big yikes.
Come on! Sometimes you see the opportunity for a joke, you have to take it.
I know. So, but yeah, and then it just kind of, Lady in the Lake. He pulls the sword out of the stone, and it's a story. Like there's kind of just like it ends. That's my big problem with a lot of these.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was talking about with the it's just a statement and then it's over and that's it. A lot of these feel like that, and this is they're just like, oh, it's the last page. I guess we're done. They win. The end. There you go. So I did not like the art here. I didn't really like the action, which is what most of the issue is. I don't really give a shit about tying it into King Arthur stuff. That doesn't get any like nostalgia or like points for me. And on top of all that, it was just kind of a chore. So I'm giving this a 3.
Oof. I'll give it a 5.
All right. Oh, sorry. That's because the Jackson is next. This is not a cover. This is
not a cover. These are just designs.
Yeah, this is
back.
Yeah, this is from. But this is from the back material of another book. Yeah. And then there's a Black Manta cover. As the next one. Yeah. Orion suit cover at that. What do you
I believe this was a. Oh no, this looks pretty new.
What, Black Manta?
Yeah, it sounded like it was. I felt like maybe it was from the New 52 run, but that's Arthur's new look in there.
Yeah, and it's Ryan's suit, so I would say that's probably from like the last run we had.
Yeah.
I can't name you the issue, but off the top of my head, but. And then we had the story. It's called Multitudes. This is the Stephanie Phillips writing with Henry Preseta on the art. So, I mean, like I'm not an expert in every era of Aquaman. Is there a particular era of Aquaman that this outfit and like hair and this general vibe is from?
I believe so, but I'm not that familiar with it.
He looks like Quicksilver to me.
Yeah.
The Marvel character Quicksilver for anyone playing at home.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so this was from an era. The blue camouflage suit. I'm trying to see where it comes up at.
It looks like Quicksilver, or actually, do you know what? It looks like he was auditioning to be on the Fantastic Four, and they didn't let him in. So now he's just hired.
I think this was from the late 80s, yeah.
Okay.
So it's from 86. So it's of this era. I'm looking. But yeah, so like I want to like Stephanie Phillips a lot. This story was a mess though.
Yeah, this was Arthur travels back in time somehow, and runs into Arion, the previous, one of the old kings of Atlantis, and they end up fighting a bunch of wolfmen together. Again, a lot of this story is just fighting. And here's the thing: see, when you only have like 10 pages for your story, I feel like the last thing you want to do is spend it on a fight scene. Like it's the least story advancing stuff you can do. Honestly. But yeah, so basically he helps them fight off the Wolfman. He sort of reads his mind to sort of see where he's from, and he's like, oh, you're Arthur Curry from the future. You're special and important, and don't be sad that your brother's dead. You will go on and do many great things. And the whole story is basically just Arthur trying to get over the fact that he's maybe just failed too many times, and at the end he's like, no, what? No, I should look towards the future. The end. That's basically it.
Yeah.
The art's better than the last one. It's better than the Pop Man art. I'll say that, but I wouldn't say I like it that much either.
Yeah, it's fine. Like it's decent art. Um, yeah, this is who is this? The Hendry Presidia. Um, no, it's fine. It feels like an Aquaman book, you know. But yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this blue suit era, and if like he was a mystical time traveler that I missed out on, you know.
I don't
But
know.
I can't find anything.
I mean, I don't know if time traveling was part of that era. If that's just something that's been added for this story.
Right.
Like because this isn't like Peter David's run or anything like that, is it? This is this is just some weird period at the end of the 80s. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. Do you know what the sad part is? And I really, I feel bad because I want the audience to know that I want to be able to say interesting things or have some proper analysis or critique or say why something is just kind of like but like there are some of these shorts in this book where I don't know what to say about them. They're just, they exist. They're there. They stand there in a void of empty space around them. And this is one such story.
So I just found it. So this was from a 4-issue miniseries, post-crisis. This is how they were reintroducing Aquaman. That Arthur and Atlantis were connected to the mystical kingdom that the wizard Arion lived in during ancient times. So they went real mystical, magical, and he got transported back to actually meet Arion here. So, what a weird pull.
Yeah, that's. I mean, someone clearly liked that miniseries and thought they'll do a connection to it.
Yeah.
That's the 80-page special. Or sorry, I keep saying that because it's the 80th anniversary. Yeah. That's 100-page special is to use an obscure wrestling reference that only a fraction of people are going to get. This is more to pop Matt than anything else. This is the Doc Gallows equivalent of a comic book. This is this is highway robbery, quite frankly. I do not recommend this purchase. If you've not bought this yet and you were thinking about it, I'm telling you right now to save your $10.
It looks like a comic book, but then you get into it and you're like, this comic book is kind of bad. Why? Well,
it's not even.
Why is it still around?
It's not even just that it's like, because it's not that bad. I mean, there's some okay stuff in it.
That's why I said kinda.
It's just low effort. Everything about it just kind of feels like slapdash and thrown together.
Yep.
Anyway, that's what that was like a, I don't know, 4,
5.
Sure, there we go. Moving on. Then we got a story. I did kind of like some of the art in this next one. This is just because it's very Silver Age looking. Aquaman's in the orange and green, look very classic. I appreciated that. Admittedly, then it kind of gets to the actual main story where he's on the beach with Mira and they've got a young Garth and they're fighting Aqua Beast. I kind of appreciated the pulpiness of this. And Aqua Beast, for those who don't know, it's just a big muscly version of Aquaman.
This was the one that I thought like the writing was not good.
That's fair. I think it was going for like a old school
the silver
pulp thing though. So,
and I get that, but after like the other stories around it were better, maybe.
Maybe.
But yeah,
I think I legit enjoyed this more than the last two. Without, and it's not that it's that great, but at least I got some pulpy cheesiness out of this one.
Also, I learned about Aqua Beast for the first time, and man, I want Aqua Beast versus Bane in a wrestling match now.
Oh dear. I mean, the ending's kind of a whimper. It just kind of suddenly ends again, like some of these do. But I at least appreciated Aqua Beast and the big introduction of Aquaman. I thought that page looked quite nice. Like that's basically, and I like that when Aqua Beast comes out of the water, he's holding up Aqualad by his foot. It's like he's just like a dead fish. I thought that was a neat, like. So I got something out of this one.
Yeah, I mean, he also got Aquaman in an Aloha shirt in the end over his superhero shirt, which I think is a hilarious touch.
I was getting Mira's hair in this. I was getting like Peggy Bundy. Like I could see Katie Siegel like Married with Children era dressed as Aquaman. It's got
that bump to it. Yeah. No, fair enough.
Yeah. I'll give this one like a 5.5. Like this was over the halfway point for me.
I'll agree there, and that's mostly on the art because I did think the art was good.
Yeah.
So basically, this is just Aquabeast in a nutshell. Upon looking him up, he really just wants Mera, and he's gonna do everything he can to get Mera,
I mean,
including becoming the Aquabeast.
I'll give it a little bit of a critique in the sense that you can definitely tell it's of an old era where the villain's plot is that he just wants to steal the girl, right? He just wants to steal the damsel, right? And obviously the story makes it clear that she can take care of herself, and obviously we're past that, but you know, it is worth mentioning. But yeah, but other than that, I kind of love it as an old pulpy idea.
Yeah.
Bring back Aqua Beast. They can start a new team. Aqua Beast, Buana Beast. Something else. Was there other beasts in DC Comics? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway, next up. Oh, I hated this next one.
I figured you would have. It's Margaret Bennett. This is a bombshell story, which I guess they didn't have anything else. So we're gonna put a bombshell. Not that there's anything wrong with the bombshells. I know it's beloved, you know, but in the 80th special, weird decision.
Is your cat scratching something, Matt?
No, my the ceiling fan's going a little bit nutty right now.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine. That's fine.
It does it every so often.
Just ghosts in the house making creepy noises.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I hated the art in this, and I know that's going to be perhaps controversial because I've definitely clashed with people on this type of art style before. But it's not for me. It's what, some mermaids that they free from a spell
up the Rhine River. So Bombshell's set during World War II. So this is post World War II. Apparently the Nazis were using these. Basically, they had corrupted these river nymphs that hold this golden harp, and you can only attain the harp by being a man with, you know, that doesn't know love. So, you know, Arthur and Mera, who, you know, in Bombshells, everything's kind of gender swapped, where the women heroes are the primary heroes. And so Arthur's almost like her sidekick for Mera here. And yeah, he goes and he obtains the heart, and then they break it and free them from their free the river nymphs, which is kind of nice. They're just weird to be included in an Aquaman 80th. This is more of a Mera story almost.
Oh, we had a Jackson story earlier on, so I mean, so I think it's fine for some of the stories to be centered on the side characters.
True, but like in this alternate, you know, I don't know. Just I guess, where else are you gonna have the story?
I mean, you're preaching to the choir. I would like anything but a bombshell story here, but you know, this is what it is. I mean, obviously, this is like partially a taste thing. But like I find it hard to pay attention when I just dislike the art this much in terms of its style.
See, I thought the art was the best thing about this one. You know,
it's just not my taste. It's just not my style.
Yeah, the writing itself is a little bit clumsy in parts. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I give this a 3, I guess. Like, you know.
Oof. That's 6.5.
Yeah, but again, taste. And then Tempest, Garth, and Tula don't get their own pages for their covers.
No, they have to share.
So there's that. And then Arm gets one to himself. This is a Matina cover, so obviously it's gorgeous. But again, it's an old cover.
Yep.
So, you know, put that out there. Then we have a story about Aquaman being betrayed by... Oh, wait, no. So that's not that one yet. This is the trench one. So this is a story where some Atlanteans are hunting what they believe is a trench who's maybe murdered someone or injured someone. But Mera and Aquaman sort of debate and say, well, it's kind of weird that they left them alive, or they didn't eat them all.
The trench don't do that. Yeah.
So, I mean, this one's got a decent idea, at least. I think it's a bit rushed, obviously, you can't tell the whole story here, but the idea is that there's actually an Atlantean who adopted a young trench when it was small, and it's actually fairly house-trained. But because it's been discovered, people are trying to kill it, and it's the point of the story is that Aquaman, you know, being a child of two sides,
two shores.
You know, where he grew up in the you know the surface world, basically accepts that this is a creature that's been raised as Atlantean and decides that he's going to protect it from the people who are hunting it, and that's the ending. And as an ending, that's actually a good point to end on, because it's you know, Arthur's made this choice. That's the moral of the story. That's fine. I do think the writing's a little bit rushed, and it's not
Yeah.
as good as it could be, so it still suffers. But better idea here, at least, I would say.
So this writer Kevin Scott, I know so much from. He works in Star Wars High Republic, so I see this and I hear a lot of praise for it, and maybe the voice in High Republic is different, but like you said here, it was just off enough for me to notice. Like the voices weren't quite there, the story was kind of like I appreciate what it was going for, but like I guess Rush is the best.
Yeah, it all just feels a bit rushed. The art's not bad. Scott Eaton, not a bad artist by any means. So that definitely stuck out after the last couple of issues. Yeah, so or a couple of issues. You know what I mean? A couple of stories. So I'll give this one like a back up to a 5.5. Like, you know, over the line. I think the ideas are good. It's just the execution's a little bit off. What are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this a 6.5.
Yeah, that's fair. Now the next story is actually the one that I like the most in the whole book. Dan Waters, I think had the most interesting idea where it's not much of a story in that it is just kind of a concept, but it gives the artist a hell of a lot of things to work with and do.
Well, and it explains the Arthur and Orm dynamic better than most stories I've seen.
Yeah, this is effectively it alternates pages between the two, where one's narrating and the other one's narrating, and it compares them to the idea of storms and the idea that when two storms, rarely do they meet on the ocean, but sometimes they do, and when they do, you know, what is the outcome? Does one consume the other? Do they basically alter each other's path? Do they bounce off of each other? And we get all this great art, honestly, of like you know, them and, you know, Orm's coming to fight Arthur, and they're both in storms. He's in the lightning, the waves are going high. It's a lot of good art, and the actual concept of comparing them to storms, and then, like, you know, once you know things calm down again and the waves are calmed, and at the end of the story they're just back to being where they started, and it's like, yeah, it's just, you know, it's this idea. So Madontra's art's very good, and I think conceptually it's, if you're going to do like a 10-page, 8-page, 10-page thing where you're just kind of, you know,
it's almost like a tone poem.
Yeah, a tone poem. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
This is. I think this was a good enough idea for that, and the art's good enough that it had. It's one of the few stories in the whole book that had kind of a mood and made me kind of made it kind of feel like it was big, like it was a big deal. Like Arthur's story is important.
Yeah, at this point, I was just kind of slogging through them to get them done. And then I got to this one, and I was like, oh, no, this is good. This one's the highlight so far.
Yeah. And not even just so far, it's just the highlight in general.
Well, yeah, but I'm building suspense for how I feel for the other ones.
So, you know, I'm going to give this one an 8. I think this is good. I think it's good on both fronts. I think... you know, it made me want a Dan Waters Aquaman run, and admittedly, his name is perfect. His name is Waters. He is Mr. Waters.
True that.
He was born to write Aquaman. So, you know, do it. What are you giving this one?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Cool. All right. Nice. Next up, Rebellion. This is Dan Jurgens and Steve Epting. Obviously, Steve Epting definitely brings some artist chops to this. No doubt about that. So this is actually a story in which they believe they've been attacked by, what's the name of the
Sardia?
Sardia, yes, thank you. The civilization that are now on the land, and Arthur goes to deal with it and, like, you know, demand repercussions, and that they have to retaliate because of this, and the drone that was, you know, attacking them or surveying them, you know, some of it's their tech, so he brings it to them, to their headquarters, to their embassy, whatever it is, and says, hey, what's the meaning of this? And the woman's like, hey, like, this wiring's not of our tech, like, it's entirely possible someone's trying to make it look like it was us. And, you know, it basically turns out that it was actually two of Atlantean guards who were trying to set off a war because they hate them so much they want a war to happen. Honestly, I think the concept of this is fine. I think the biggest problem is that the woman suggests maybe this is coming from inside Atlantis, and Arthur just shows up and immediately bangs the heads together of the two guards that are behind it. And I'm like, surely there should be more here where he figures out who it is.
Yeah. So I had to look this up. This was based off of Jurgen and Epting's Aquaman run from the early 2000s. This is almost like an extended story. So you remember when they did the Blackest Night and they brought those Dead issues back?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a continuation somewhat. It's kind of what this was. So I had to look all this up. I almost kind of would have liked a full issue's worth of this just because there's so many interesting things at play, and come to find out there's a whole run.
Honestly, I'm not surprised. It kind of felt like something that was because they all had different costumes. It felt like it was connected to something. I'm not surprised this is a case of like because we've seen this in these other specials where one or two of the stories it'll be like a writer coming back and they'll actually do something that connects to their run, which is great if you've read that run. It's a nice little callback to it. But if you haven't,
but if you haven't, you're like us going like, what's going on here?
Yes.
So, but no, it wasn't bad. And again, I'm never gonna be mad at Epting art, but like here it doesn't feel like, I don't know, maybe if the inks are a little heavy, but it feels, but maybe that's what his style was in the early 2000s. I'm not sure. You know, I'm more familiar with later 2000s Epting, which is a little bit cleaner. The lines aren't as heavy.
It wouldn't surprise me if he is trying to mimic the style that he drew in when he was doing this run originally. That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like you said in another story, kind of comes down to taste there. But like this wasn't bad outside of it's a little bit short, and it just abruptly ends here with Arthur calling for peace and unity.
Sadly, it's one of the better ones so far because it does have some good ideas. It has good art. You do feel like there's maybe more to it that's missing, but like that kind of makes sense given that it is kind of like a follow-up to a run that happened, and there is a lot of history here that was in that run, presumably. And you know, one day hopefully I'll get to read that run and this will all click even better. On its own, because it does feel like it glosses over the actual like discovery part of who's behind it. Like I get that it teases, okay, it's someone from inside Atlantis, but he just immediately knows who it is, and he just, you know, like, and I get that it's the only people it really could be in the context of the story is the two people who found the drone and were telling him about it, but you know, so I think based on that, I'll probably give it like a 6.5. Like, I think there's enough here that I'm happy to say it's this. You know, again, the problem is though is that this is kind of like, yeah, obviously we just had an 8, but otherwise like 6.5 has kind of been the peak of this book. Is the problem like that? You know, the average is not good.
No,
so
not at all.
If this was the low point of the book, that'd be great, but it's not. It's actually nearish the top, and that's kind of the issue. So then we had the story. So the last two stories, and as tradition with these, is typically the last story leads into where the ongoing book is going. In this case, we've got two minis coming up related to Aquaman characters, so we have two stories that are both leading into those two. This first one, the Black Manta mini coming up, this is kind of a prologue to that, and presumably will be in the trade of that mini when it's collected. Where it's Black Manta and his associate. Does he name her here?
Yeah, she has a weird name. He calls her Gallus the Goat.
Yes. And they're debating. He's got an artifact that Atlantis is looking for. Is this maybe the thing from Action Comics that they had?
I don't think so because it's. I want to say no, because it feels like that was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny because I agree. It doesn't really feel that same, but it felt similar enough in idea that it's just maybe just this thing where because we just had Atlantis arguing over an artifact. And it wasn't like it definitely like because it's effectively just a hunk of rock, and that was effectively a hunk of rock. So it's not distinct enough to make me distinguish them in my heads too much. But hey ho, so. Some monsters attack. They're kind of like mutated versions of the Trench that Black Manta says are actually from a different part of the world, but they're
Groot slang from South Africa, which I've just looked up, which is African and Dutch for big snake. So Good to know that we're just naming stuff how they look.
It's like but they do have like trench-like heads, so it's like imagine
they do.
They have trench legs and they have trench heads and arms, but then they have like a snake tail,
snake body, and with big like elephant tusks.
Yes.
Too.
So very very distinct design. I'll say that much. So they fight a bit, and they fend these creatures off, and they're like, well, we're going to have to, you know, go find out what's going on here, you know.
Which leads right into the Black Manta story, because he puts his suit on and with her. I want to know what her deal is, because
I'm sure the miniseries is going to go into that. So, and issue 1's out next month, so I mean, you know, that's
next week.
Did it say next week?
Yeah. I looked to see what's coming out next week, and it's on there. So
it just says next month on the back page, which was I was looking at.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean this was fine. Like the art is not bad, I thought.
Yeah. Well, it's Valentine De Leandro who did the Mr. Miracle stuff during Future State.
Oh sure, yeah, I can see that.
He's doing the covers for that Mr. Miracle book right now that we're not reading.
I can see the comparison for sure. It definitely looks like that's the same style.
But yeah, the art's real good. I mean, I have a soft spot for Black Manta thanks to Jeff Johns through his Aquaman run. So I mean, if I wasn't that keen on checking this out, this kind of pushed me a little bit, because like I want to know what's going on with him. Although I hope this isn't to build him as an anti-hero, because I kind of just like that he's a jerk.
I do kind of like the voices these two characters had. You know, Black Manta and this woman. I think their banter was entertaining enough, and it was probably some of the best writing dialogue of the entire book. Like, I don't think I enjoyed any conversations really up until this point in this book.
That's fair. It's Chuck Brown that's doing the main book.
Yeah. So who I don't know from anything else. So this is the first time of.
But let's not lose the fact that his name is probably Charles, so he goes by Chuck Brown, so he doesn't have to go by Charlie Brown.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there's a lot of people who go by Charles or Chuck who never felt the danger of being called Charlie.
Right.
But hey, I'm happy to give that a 7. That's just one of the better stories in the book.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 7.
Yeah. I was going to read issue 1 of this mini anyway, because I tend to try all the new issue 1s, but that's definitely made me a little bit more curious about it. Admittedly, I'm not sure how essential this short story is going to be for it, but as a teaser for it, yeah, sure. I have no major complaints. So then there's the Andy page with the previous art. Andy. Yeah. Obviously, this is the newest first appearance, 2020.
Did we see that it stands for Andrina?
I don't know, actually. That doesn't ring a bell.
I don't remember. I remember reading the issue where she was born, and I remember learning her name was Andy but I thought that was based off of the gods that he was with during that Kelly Sue run.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was his name, that's what they were calling him. So I like that though. I like that it's short for Andrina. It sounds like one of Ariel's sister's name from Little Mermaid, so it fits.
Yeah, and then the Robson Roca dedication page, which was in all the books like last week or whatever, but it was nice to put it in here as well since he did work on Aquaman.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that. And then the final story of the book, the Brandon Thomas one, and this is leading into the Jackson Aquaman Rising book, which is basically Aquaman and Mira head off for a bit after Jackson's been training, and he's left with Andy. But then Scavenger and some pirates show up. They're looking for a gem that apparently Andy just picked it up on the beach. Mm-hmm. So they're targeting Andy
because it was sparkly and she's a baby.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And basically, it's a scepter that has all these gems in it, which will only open. It will show the way to this magic treasure that they're hunting. Mm-hmm. So I assume Matt was at least into that part of it because this is poppy as shit.
I didn't hate this story. Like Brandon Thomas is real hit or miss with me, and this was closer to a hit than a miss. So yeah, the whole treasure aspect. I like Scavenger as a villain. We don't get him enough
Sure.
in Aquaman comics.
Yeah.
Um,
I think.
also, um, I had a small laugh that when Jackson and Andy hide into the jungle,
Mm-hmm.
he makes a little baby Bjorn out of leaves, and I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't dislike this either. It's just kind of fine.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Jackson having to protect Andy and kind of being there for what is it, because he refers himself as uncle, and it's not really,
Right.
but that's, effectively that's the relationship that he's going to have with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that part's fine. I thought as a setup to the miniseries though of Jackson becoming
Mm-hmm.
new Aquaman. Yeah, it's called Aquaman the Becoming. I keep calling it Aquaman Rising because I forgot the title.
Right.
But setting up as a setup for that book though, it doesn't really feel like it entices me in any way.
No, no, not like the Black Manta one did
Yeah,
right before it.
because the Black Manta one introduces a plot, it introduces a new character. At least I think she's new.
Right. Right.
And sort of teases like, whereas the only thing this really does is like Jackson feels like he's not good enough and he wants to get better,
Right.
and that's it. And Aquaman's like, well, turns out we've got an idea for you.
Yeah, I do like too that this carries on because neither of you read the Future State Aquaman stuff. That was just me, right?
Did I not read the first one? I feel like I read the first one. Did I not?
Okay. But it carries on that Jackson and Andy relationship that you see here, where he feels like the big sibling. So I was getting some Robin vibes here too, to where he just wants to be a good role model, and find his place. Where does he belong in the Aqua family? And he cares very much about this little girl.
I think what's a little bit weird about this for me is that Jackson in comics has not really been around that long. So it feels weird that he's at this stage, and like I'm not saying it should be Garth instead,
right.
but
right.
if anything, like Jackson feels more like Tim Drake here, whereas Garth should be the Dick Grayson of the Aqua family.
Right, but I will say that with Garth, though, I feel like they're building Jackson up because at least he's interesting. That's Garth.
No, that's a fair point, but it doesn't alleviate the idea that he's not been around that long. So it feels like we're kind of catapulting him to a status that you really just get by like time. It's just a time thing more than anything.
No, and I get that, but like with Garth and stuff, I get that he's the original. He's the Dick Grayson generation, but I can't tell you anything about Garth besides he does magic. He was left on a reef, because of his purple eyes. I know that much. At least with Jackson, there is that, he is kind of the Tim Drake, right? Where he has more in common with Arthur than anyone, right? So if anyone's going to take over the mantle of Aquaman eventually, it makes sense that it'll be him. So I do like that Brandon Thomas seems to have a take for the character here. And hopefully that carries over because this is his theme between the relationship of him and Andy, and then his relationship with Aquaman and Mera, wanting to be worthy of their legacy on top of it. Like there's a lot here that I hope that lands on the main book.
There's potential there. Sometimes it feels like sometimes comics like to pretend there's a legacy to something that doesn't actually have a legacy yet.
Yeah.
And Jackson at times I think can feel like that, whereas when I look at, like, go back to the Robins for comparison, like, every single one of them, like, have the time now. Even Damian now has been around long enough that it kind of feels like Damian is so established and, like, and he is still obviously presented as a very young character, but whereas Jackson, he didn't really show up until the start of Rebirth, right? That was when Jackson showed up in the comics.
Right.
So, we're kind of in this weird place where because he was in a fairly like B-level Teen Titans book. As much as we enjoyed that Teen Titans book at the time, it wasn't exactly like must-read stuff. He wasn't featured heavily in Aquaman, not until recently. It wasn't really until the Kelly Sue run where he was a prominent figure, and it's definitely some of the best stuff he's had was in that run. So I'm very curious to see the development of his character now, and and maybe that's just a case of he needs a spotlight, he needs his own book, which this is going to be, where he is the central character.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But it's the sort of thing where they've not sold me on him being like elevated yet until I've actually read some stories where he is sort of presented to me that way, I guess.
Gotcha.
But part of it's just that he doesn't have the like. He's not. I'm not already attached to him in the same way that when they make a choice to elevate a character who I do already love because they've been around long enough and they've had enough good stories anyway, that I'm rooting for them to be elevated and like take a more prominent role. Whereas with Jackson, it's more like, okay, you're going to have to convince me that he's like, not that he's. I mean, there's no such thing as deserving necessarily, because a character is only deserving because of the quality of the stories you give them anyway. So, but I don't have the attachment in advance with this one, whereas like, it's like, oh no, as you elevate him, you're going to have to give me the stories that make it feel real and make it feel like he's deserving of that.
And I feel that because he came around during Brightest Day, and then the New 52 happened, and then we didn't get too much of him until Rebirth, right? There was a whole bunch of time in between there that we could have been establishing him, because I feel that's what the plan was.
Yeah.
And we kind of missed out on it, so now they're kind of course correcting, because he's a pretty big character on Young Justice, right? You guys have watched that.
Oh yeah, he's a very prominent character in that.
Yeah. So it does feel like they've had these, lofty goals for the character that kind of got sidetracked for unknown reasons, And
I'm excited to see some other stories, because I do feel like the stories we've had with them so far, and it's not even really been that many, but I feel like we fall back onto his relationship with Black Manta, and it happened in this very anthology. Is that we went back to that for his one
right?
Well, yeah, 2 stories technically, but this one at the end. But
yeah, which I do appreciate that, because it's him fighting like this man is my dad and whatever, and I don't, him fighting that legacy because he wants Arthur's lineage, right? Like that's what he's going for.
Yeah, but it's the problem a lot of comic book characters have, though, is that they always go back to the one key plot detail that they've been given, and they never advance beyond that. And obviously, Batman's a bad example because he does have a lot, but it's the same sort of thing when we sort they're bringing up the Death of the Winds again,
Right, no, and I get that, and but I understand why they keep doing it, but he hasn't been around that long where that's his only defining thing, So, yeah, and once we can get past that, which I doubt we will, the fact that we have a Black Manta book coming out at the same time as his book of Becoming, I'm sure there's going to be maybe not an actual crossover, but I feel like they're going to line up somewhere.
I mean, arguably that might be the more reassuring, is that because Black Manta is got in his own book at the same time, is that's more likely going to mean that Black Manta is not going to feature heavily in Jackson's book, and that's probably that can only be a good thing. I think giving him like struggling with like taking on a new role and more responsibility is far more interesting to me at this point than just having him whine about his dad not being a good person again, because I'm already at the point where I'm kind of sick of that as a character thing for him.
No, I do, and I want him just to let that go and go. I'm never going to change my dad, so I'm going to embrace Arthur, as that father figure, and whatnot. Just because I like the idea that Black Manta, like, I forget which comic creators I saw on Twitter this week talking about, like, there needs to be more unredeemable villains. Because it feels like right now that's the thing. We're like, oh, we're gonna write this villain, but they're actually, deep down, they have a heart. And I forget who was saying it. It's like, yeah, but sometimes you just want an utter bastard. And I felt that's where Manta was for a long time. Because during Snyder's Justice League, he was the one guy kicked out of the Injustice League.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Joker fits into that category, but Black Manta's very different in that. Yeah. He's not a crazy bastard. He's just a cold bastard.
Exactly. And he's like, I don't have time for this. And I like that. And not every character needs to be Poison Ivy and Two-Face and Deathstroke that they can play the line. That's what makes them special. But if every single character's doing that, and I don't want to put Catwoman or Harley in there because at this point they're heroes. They're much more on the hero side than they are the in between.
But I mean, to be fair, it happened with Harley largely because she was popular enough that it made sense to basically turn her face, to use a wrestling term. And I do think there's a risk with. I think it's far more interesting to me when out of nowhere someone's doing it with Man-Bat, with with a character
Right.
that we've not really thought about, or Clayface even, right?
Right.
To go with Detective,
Mhm.
where that was interesting because we like we didn't see that coming, and then
Right.
the story actually kind of justifies it and explores why he could be a good character and why there is maybe some conflict within him.
Right, but those fit into the monster archetype though too, you know, of there's still humanity in there. They're not what their appearance does. I like it when it's just a bad guy. Like I don't want Lex Luthor to ever be redeeming. So when he was and it worked, it felt special. When he was running around with the Superman S on his chest and stuff. And so I just worry about the Black Manta book in his relationship with Jackson.
I think Lex is a weird example because Lex kind of does have some understandable and redeeming qualities at times, and cause he's a very complex character, and that's partly what makes Lex kind of interesting. But there is definitely characters who I never want to see not be just a complete villain.
Right.
I never, obviously Joker's the first one that always comes to mind, but I never want to see, I don't know, like Black Mask. Black Mask should always be a cold bastard. Like he should always be awful. Likewise, I don't know. Maxwell Lord, he should always be a complete prick. There's characters who I never want to.
Well, and that's where I would put Black Manta. But I feel like there's a change going, and I hope I'm wrong. Just because
I mean, if they do something with Black Manta, at least I can maybe accept the potential, because I don't know if this has been done before in DC Comics, where because they're a father now,
right?
That's the thing that actually plants the seed where maybe they can grow a little bit. There could be some potential there, but yeah, so many villains have become anti-heroes or just straight up good guys or whatever because they're popular, and eventually you have to turn them, otherwise it's impossible to keep doing stories with them. But yes, I do like a good complete villain. But
you brought up with Black Mask. I'm trying to think of other Superman villains that you could do, like Mongol. I don't need a ever redeemable Mongol at this point.
Mongol, Darkseid. I would. Who else? Brainiac should always be cold like a computer. He should never be sympathetic. There's a bunch.
Yeah, there's a bunch there, but yeah. So we'll see how this goes. I'm glad to be having Aqua books back because that's I was enjoying that before they pulled it. It was one of those books that I was enjoying the Kelly Sue run, and then it was just gone.
A surprising amount of that run, both through Abnett and then Kelly Sue, and even who was in between? There was someone in between, wasn't there? Oh, I can't remember. But anyway, like a surprising amount of that run, all the way from 1 through till its ending was pretty good. The only downfall tended to be a couple of the odd fill-ins here or there, which were a bit rough. But other than that, Aquaman was consistently solid. So yeah, the final story is like it's like a 6. Like it's fine. Like it's not bad.
6.5.
So there you go. Yeah, but overall, as a collection, as an anthology book, is it worth buying? Honestly, no.
No.
It was a chore to get through. But ultimately, when they announce another one of these, and they probably already have, and it's a list of great creators, it's like, okay, I'll get it. But definitely in the minutes after I finished this, I was like, I'm never reading one of these again. I'm done with these things.
I told my wife, I'm like, she goes, why is that one so long? I was like, they've been doing these 80th anniversaries because we're starting to get to that point where these characters have been around forever, but like, it just doesn't, this one didn't feel like it was justified. She's like, yeah, but you like Aquaman. I was like, yeah, that's why I'm upset. Like this could have been something different, and it could have been an homage to the character, and these are almost leftover stories. And when I got to those covers that were where the pinups usually are, I was just like, oh, okay, this was an afterthought.
That's the word I'd use. Afterthought's the word I'd use, because maybe one or two of them were just leftover stories that were sitting around. I mean, I think genuinely most of it's new content, and that's fine. But it's just mostly mediocre, if not bad. And then the Dan Water story was good. I think that the setup for the Black Manta minis pretty solid, but that's sadly kind of where I stopped being that positive about it. So yeah,
I think it just went from Abnett to Kelly Sue. Because
okay, did
it
it?
went
Okay,
Kingslayer, then they did the crossover with Suicide Squad, which was Abnett's
that was
last.
okay. Okay, fair
And then
enough.
they did the Drowned Earth stuff, which I don't know who wrote the Drowned Earth stuff. But that was a couple issues. That was Aquaman 41 and 42. And then 43, it started with Kelly Sue.
Okay, I thought there was someone in between, but
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah. I think it was the Suicide Squad crossover stuff. That might have tripped it up.
I knew it wasn't issue to issue. I knew there was so obviously between Drowned Earth and the Suicide Squad crossovers. There was a few issues of like in between, but okay, there you go. That's Aquaman's 80th anniversary. I mean, I don't know if we have to rate the whole. I mean, if I'm rating the whole thing as an anthology issue, it's getting like a 5.
Yeah, 5.5 probably for me.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, but I would not recommend grabbing it honestly. All right. Infinite Frontier, issue 5. Joshua Williamson writing with a bunch of artists.
Yes.
A bunch of them. So we've been enjoying this well enough. It's been doing some interesting multiverse setup for whatever that bastard Williamson's got in his mind for where we're going. We start off with Psycho Pirate. It's a sort of a flashback to him convincing both Bones and Machine Head to like join his plan. Obviously, Machine Head did the big betrayal last issue. And we get introduced to his Injustice incarnate in this issue, which is all the villains that he's put together. So we get all this. I mean, this issue is a bit more straightforward. There's a lot less jumping around this issue. It's this version of Bones here who's like explaining stuff to Chase and the JSA, who get partially reunited. Alan and Obsidian meet up with Jade and the others who were on the other ship, and they're all together. Roy's there as well. They know that there must be a speedster involved because whatever they're trying to do is involving the multiverse, and then they spot Barry in the big wheel, and we find out that mysterious character who was hunting Roy is actually an alternate version of Chase.
What's her name though? We've been over this.
What's her name?
Yeah, you never remember her name.
I don't remember her name. You're right. I don't.
Extract.
There you go.
Yeah. Which I thought that was a fun, take, that it's a version of her from Bones' original Earth, which would have to be Earth 2, because if that's the original Bones that we see in the, the Crossbones costume, the high cape.
Yeah, the goofy Silver Age looking outfit.
Yeah. Also, that page where he yells at Chase, and he's in that suit, and he goes, "And you messed it all up." I got a genuine laugh out of it. And I don't know if that's what it was supposed to be, but just that ridiculous look at him yelling in that way.
I think it is. I think it's like a pulpy kind of like.
Yeah.
I don't think the art in this issue is that good overall because it's just too varied. It's probably got the biggest stretches of just kind of flatness to it. But I will say the page where you realize that Extract and Chase are just alternate versions of the same person. I did think. I don't necessarily like it that much as a piece of art because I don't necessarily like the line work that much, but I will say it does a really good job of having them have the exact same pose, so that despite the fact that it's different hair, you can totally tell that they're both the same person. So, so at least the function of what it's supposed to convey does get across. So
I remember when they officially made Power Girl Kara Zor-El from Earth 2, post Infinite Crisis, they did a similar thing when she meets Kara, where Kara goes, now that you mention it, it is kind of like looking at an older mirror. And it was very similar with the poses and the way that they were drawn. It was handled the same way, so I was getting flashbacks to that. Which maybe is the point. Like, we know that Williamson, the other Josh, he's deep into this lore at this point, But yeah, and just the Injustice incarnate, that is a wild assembly of characters.
Oh yeah, very cookie. And of course, what's there of the JSA charge and the Green Lanterns make up some constructs of who's not there, just to give us like a sort of GSA splash page, which is fun. We see that inside Barry's head, he's with all the Flash family running with him. So this is obviously the Psycho Pirate manipulation. And we get the big teases, though, which are kind of the, all these purple chains, like these sort of like shadow chains start to come in. We get like, Superman, President Superman breaks out of them in that classic Superman breaks the chains pose. Cover. Yeah. That's nice stuff. But these chains keep showing up and they keep attacking more and more people and binding them. And it looks like all the Earths and all the multiverse are starting to like slow down. And it's like, okay, so the plan here is to like basically every time there's some sort of crisis, Earth Zero is always at the center of it. It's their fault. So we have to put a stop to all this and save all these other Earths. And Roy actually does this selfless thing here where he realizes that his daughter's not here, but is back on Earth Zero. And essentially has this moment where he accepts that he's going to like let the ring take over. He's going to use it to stop this, and he's just going to trust all the heroes. He's going to trust the JSA. Right. He's going to trust them to go and save her.
Well, yeah, because we find out too that because he's not from Earth Zero, or the ring's not from Earth Zero. This is the ring that Batman wore during Death Metal.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's something special about this ring and why it chose him.
And there's kind of an explanation at the end because we hear about the Omega Lantern. Yeah. So this is like the Omega ring, I guess. But yeah.
Well, which one, that Omega's the last letter in the Greek alphabet, right? And that's why it's Darkseid symbol, because he is inevitable.
Well, alpha,
to borrow a phrase.
Alpha to Omega, right? That's
exactly
usually the thing.
So yeah. Roy being a hero.
Now it doesn't actually seem to work though, because when we get to the last page in Darkseid, because they're all sort of slowly realizing that it's Darkseid's chains that are doing all this, and then the final page when Darkseid's like, with my Omega Lantern by my side, I will control all. So he's trying to take over the entire multiverse. This is Darkseid's biggest play ever, but he actually has Roy in chains. So Roy's not actually went anywhere. He's actually still there. Right. This has not actually had the effect that he was hoping. So big stuff getting into the final issue. It's funny. Like, I think I like what this is doing from what we're doing with the multiverse, what we're doing with the JSA characters. This is maybe a less satisfying issue on its own because it's less mystery and more all the characters are together and monologuing and fighting. So I think in terms of an issue, I like this a little bit less than maybe the last couple issues.
Right, but it is a penultimate issue too, so we're gonna get all the big stuff, I'm sure, in the next one to lead to whatever else Williamson has up his sleeve.
Yeah. I'm thinking what it's doing. I will say that the art's been kind of spotty in this book anyway because it's been so many artists, rotating. But there was no Zermanico section this time, so it felt like the caliber overall was down.
Yeah, I mean it's Pelletier, Marino, and Derenick, and I think Derenick did one of the stories in the Aquaman special too. So no Zermanico, but so there's no strong point to the art, but the art's pretty. I mean, for being three artists, it is pretty consistent across the board. I didn't feel like I was getting whiplash.
Consistently just okay though is the problem.
Yeah, that's what I mean though. Yeah. It's not like there's no highs or lows. It's just across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I do love I like the idea of Darkseid manipulating a bunch of characters basically by saying, if you help me, I will ensure that there's no future crisis that will eliminate you. Because Psycho Pirate says that he's from the original Earth too, and after the original crisis, his Earth just vanished, and he was left stranded, and no one believed him. They put him in Arkham. No one believed him that there was multiple Earths, and so the idea of convincing characters to help Darkseid based on the idea of I will make sure your Earths keep existing, that your Earth will never go away.
And because Machine Head brought up the point that why is your Earth Zero? Why isn't it our Earth? Why is it what's so about that Earth that causes the ripples across the multiverse? And they're tired of it, which I kind of like that for a crisis. You know.
I mean, obviously, the real answer to that is because it's the one that we read about 99% of the time.
Of course, but the character to ask that,
but the reason why I was saying that is because I didn't realize or I'd forgotten that Calvin's kryptonite is called metanite, and
Mhm.
that made me laugh. Given
Yeah.
that I know like his creation comes from like Grant Morrison's work and how meta Morrison loves to get, so it
Right.
stuck out to me. But yeah. So, but yeah, I would say it's maybe a little bit of a weaker issue overall. But still digging everything it's doing in terms of all the shenanigans and what I love all these
Mhm.
characters being involved, and I'm excited to see where the JSA are landing after all this and
Mhm.
what we're doing with Psycho Pirate and all that. So, but I don't suspect that this is going to be the end of the story. I suspect that all this
No.
Darkseid stuff is setting up stuff for the future.
Yeah. It's planting seeds. He's been playing with Darkseid for a minute now, since the end of the first Metal, because he had that whole section with Odyssey that kind of fell apart.
Well, I mean,
So there,
that wasn't his after the
he's
first few issues, but
no, but it was his idea. He's still
sure.
getting story by credits. So whatever he has, this is something I feel like he's had in his brain for a minute. So I'm excited. I just remember how being excited I was when they announced that book, and like Darkseid was gonna have like a Hannibal Lecter vibe. Like he was
Well,
imprisoned on the ship
we
with them and
thought
stuff.
we thought we were going to have Cedric as
Yeah.
drawing Jessica Cruz for months and months and
And
months,
Starfire.
and we got 2
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
of it.
Yup. So
that was a shame.
but yeah, whatever it is, I don't feel like it's the end. So
Yeah. So that's neat. That's neat. I'm excited to see how this wraps up because there's only one more issue. I think it's just issue 6.
yeah.
It's the last one. So what are you rating Infinite Frontier issue 5?
I'm at 7.5.
Yeah, I'll just go straight 7. I think on this one. I'm digging it, but overall it was definitely a little bit down quality wise.
So next issue comes out next week, and the only artist that's listed is Zermanico. So
Praise be.
yeah.
Praise be.
So there we go.
Do you stop spoiling everything that's coming out next week? There's a list at the end for the reason, Matt.
Yeah, I'm just telling you.
Well, stop it.
No. No.
All right, next up. Batman Fierce Day Alpha issue 1, James Tynion the fourth, writing with Riccardo Federici on the art. Federici, who I think we mainly know as the one who was swapping with Cedric when Aquaman was the thing.
Yep.
There's a lot of Federici art during that time. So art's pretty solid. Federici's got a distinct style, which gives this a vibe, which is nice. So this is oversized, of course, and it is a prelude to the Fear State story. Which, and I like this issue. I think it's not amazing or essential, but I do like the kind of the big event feel that it gives the story, because it kind of like, here's just all the characters right before the story starts, and also a flashback at the start of the first time Simon Saint went to visit Jonathan Crane in Arkham and sort of started their relationship.
This feels like a proper event story where I felt Joker War didn't. So like Joker War just felt like it was a story that was happening in Batman, that like, oh, we're gonna tie all this in. This Fear State, actually, it feels like there's gonna be ripples across the Bat line because of it.
Well, I mean,
it's been way that it's
building for so long, and then of course the fact that because this issue alone brings in stuff from Catwoman, it brings in stuff from various Bat books. All the Bat family are pretty much involved. So yeah, I mean, it feels like an event.
So it feels like a big deal, and this issue made me realize I am probably gonna miss Tynion a whole lot. Like, I know Williamson's taken over for a little bit on Batman, but all the pieces that Tynion's moved in to place to tell this story, I look back on, and even though I didn't like some of them, right? Like I don't like Ghostmaker. There's some parts of Joker where I didn't like, but I feel like they've all served this purpose to lead to here, and I love that.
I think for me it's just Ghostmaker I don't like. I don't think there's been anything else that I've. Maybe people will correct me for something I did complain about.
No,
but...
I mean, like, yeah, you like, and we have different tastes and stuff. But like Clown Hunter, I wasn't a big fan of. Still not, like, as a character, and the whole Joker War aspect, some of the stuff that he did. However, it's led to Saint being able to take over parts of Gotham in the way that he did. It's making the Fear State stuff pop out a little bit more, or Fear State, Future State. I don't like that those are so similar. Now that I think about it, it's making that stuff stand out a little bit more. So, and then the Insanity Collective, and how they're different. Yeah, there's just a lot in here that I liked.
Yeah, so that's flashback with Saint going to see Crane. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically just like, you wrote about this theory about society evolving based on the getting a shock to the system because they're so scared that everything's going to change, and they're malleable and they can be changed, by someone's image. And they say, oh, there has to be a number of factors for this, but hey, Gotham goes through a lot of shit. Gotham's actually a place where they've been through so much awful stuff that you could pull it off in Gotham. And Scarecrow obviously is tempted by this. And we've been saying that Scarecrow and Saint, when things get to a certain point, they're not going to be able to work together, right? Scarecrow's going to have his own agenda. There's no way he's not going to. And that obviously really already starts to bubble up in this issue. So we know Batman's trapped by Scarecrow. We see him there after the flashback. But then the rest of the issue, for the most part, is just it. Like, I actually really appreciated these couple of pages of the news reports. They effectively just recap everything that's happened in this run to get us to this point. And I think it's actually really smart because it's like, with monthly comic books, it's very easy to forget things, especially when stuff was set up months and months ago, and this has been a long-form thing. I think these 2 pages were a really nice refresher, and just here's all the steps that got us here. Here's who Mahoney is, who Peacekeeper 1 is, like what that journey was. Here's what A-Day was. Here's the teases that Scarecrow's been planting at the the mayor's house and stuff like that. And then the Insanity Collective, all of it just building up and bubbling up and just establishing the scene. And then of course we get to Mahoney, who's actually under fear gas right now.
And I love the idea. It's like you have a mechanized soldier and they're under the influence of an unknown toxin, and you still think this is going according to plan.
Yeah,
like I just love that.
And Saint obviously is freaking out, and obviously it's like, well, you're supposed to be working with Scarecrow. Why is this a and and again, there's been so much emphasis on setting up, Montoya like being roped in to be commissioner to be under Nakano. So her reacting to all this magistrate stuff and like just dropping F-bombs and smashing her phone on the floor. In fact, it's not even her phone; it's the other cop's phone, which is actually funnier, to be honest. You got
just like telling Nakano, like you can't let this happen. He's like, let it happen. It's already happening.
And you've got Oracle with the Batgirls and them trying to like hack into things, only to be hit with a fake Oracle that puts out a message to just rile up the population more. It tells them all to be scared of Batman. It tells them all to be scared of the Sanity Collective, everything.
I was gonna make a point that I was like, this doesn't sound like Oracle when it starts up, and then it gets to no, it's not Oracle. She's like, what's going on? So for Barbara to even be like, I got outplayed, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I dug that a lot. I dug them try to problem solve it and then effectively try to do something about it, only for to cause an explosion. And it's like shit. Like Scarecrow has put a lot of thought into this. Like this is like a proper big time thing.
I always say that my favorite one of my favorite Batman stories, and I always forget the name of it, which makes it stupid to say is my favorite, but it was a Detective Comics 2-parter from back before Flashpoint, where basically the inmates in Arkham tell Scarecrow, you're nothing without your gas. You get beat up by Batman. You can't instill fear anymore. So he goes and creates a state of fear. I actually think it's called State of Fear or State of Terror, where he just starts killing random people across Gotham, and he ends up having Gotham in the palm of his hand, and that's what reinvigorates him to become Scarecrow again. And there's a lot of similarities here with this one, with Scarecrow putting all these plants in it, and really makes it like this is why he's a Batman level villain. He's not the dude that showed up in the Man-Bat mini. I did got his butt kicked.
Which reminds me, I did laugh at the start in the flashback when it ends with Scarecrow saying, I'm going to need all this money and also lots of straw and rope. I need a lot of straw and rope.
That was a good one.
So no, I really, in fact, I think Federici's art here, like I'd be down for more Bat books with Federici on art, because
has a mood to it.
It has a mood, and even just stuff as simple as like the Batgirls hanging around the clock tower with Babs, just it had kind of a vibe. It felt different to a lot of the other Bat art we've seen recently. So I felt like their outfits just had a cooler like look to them than normal. Steph's outfit felt more like her Batgirl outfit that just happened to not have the yellow, as opposed to just being her spoiler outfit, for example. But anyway, so that happens. Then we cut to Deep Under Gotham, which is where Harley's taken Miracle Molly and co. for protection, and this is where one of the Ivies, I should say,
Queen Ivy.
Yeah, Queen Ivy's like hiding out,
Yeah.
and this is one of these things where this has been built up, and the gardener's like, hey, there's another part of Ivy that's missing. We have to find her. And I was thinking, well, what about the one that's in Catwoman? And of course, like literally, like just like a page or two later, that's where we go. We go to the other Ivy, the broken one that Catwoman's got from her book. And again, that made it really feel like I'm feeling rewarded for reading both Batman and Catwoman. Now they're both worth reading on their own anyway, because they've both been really good. But it really like, oh no, this is actually really neatly fitting into this. But you have this idea as well. There's like a really nice emotional beat here where Harley is able to convince this Ivy to let these people seek asylum here, when this version of Ivy, the Queen Ivy, has been pretty cold and pretty nasty to people. And the Guardian even says, Ivy must really love you if even this part of her is willing to like listen to you. So it's actually a really sweet thing, and it does that thing, the cut where it says, hey, there's a part of Ivy missing somewhere in Gotham, and we turn the page and we're in Alleytown, and it's kind of interesting that Harley has one half of Ivy and Catwoman has the other half.
Yeah,
that's a really because of the sirens and
well, and I love the idea too that it's not Poison Ivy anymore. She's just Ivy, right? And there's Queen Ivy, and there's this Ivy. So I was like, do we put them together? Is that where Poison Ivy's gonna come back? Like, I just love the differentiation between the two, And it also goes into, I know me and Connor read it, but the Harley and Ivy mini, this was kind of the crux of that there was two Ivies running around, and I know that's probably not part of the story and they're disregarding that, but I like that it's the same vibe, that, that at the end of the day, the relationship is so strong between Ivy and Harley that even this impossibly evil version, can't help but be swayed.
And it's something that even Swamp Thing added to as well, for that one issue where it brought up Ivy. So it's been something that it's been editorially has been well handled, and that it's not been this mistake where there's multiple Ivies that all feel like they're, because this could have felt like a mistake where, oh, why is Ivy in this book so different to the Ivy in this book? But there's been enough references to, no, there's like a split of some kind, or there's something weird going on. And then when you get to this and it has them back-to-back pages with a direct reference of, like this Ivy is missing some of herself and vice versa.
Yep.
So really neat stuff. It really incorporates the Catwoman stuff into this. And the fact that they're moving in on Alleytown. We even see Jace with his bat suit, sort of like, because basically the news is reporting that Batman is dead. And obviously we don't believe that. Barbara doesn't believe it for a second, because when Babs hears that, she's like, yeah, don't, or I think it's Selena actually. When Selena hears, hey, I hear Batman's dead, and Selena's like, yeah, I don't believe everything you hear. Like, she knows not to just believe that at face value.
Right. And this is where I like the parts of Fear State that pop, is the Batman's dead, and it's, it's not what we thought it was, right? Here it's playing off that it has to do with Scarecrow having him, not prisoner, but he has them all tied up and off the board, if you will.
Did you make me say Future State? I don't think you're saying.
Yes, I did Fear State again, didn't I?
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Future State. My bad. Made the Future State, and then the stuff with Chase 2 popping up as a Batman.
Yeah, that's just kind of what I meant by it. Just it goes around all the characters that are going to be important and just kind of sets them up and like, okay, this is where things are going to start. Because I really loved later on when Toya's talking to Nakano, or no, it's Simon. Simon's like basically saying, no, we'll show our strength by taking over Alleytown. And because so much of Catwoman's last couple of issues has been about the fact that the forces are coming into Alleytown.
Yep.
This feels so well orchestrated between the books that it feels like that's been the status quo in Catwoman for a couple of issues, that it doesn't just feel like out of nowhere. It feels like, oh no, we've been building to that in Catwoman, and now it feels like it's part of Saint's overall plans in Gotham. Everything just feels like it is part, like at least all the Bat books feel like they're part of one world, and that just feels so satisfying. So that's neat stuff. I mean, honestly, the only real critique I have of this is that it just kind of ends on a weird, like, Batman breaks out of his bounds and just kind of like is like, you know, making a run for it, and Scarecrow's like, there's no stopping it now, Batman, ha 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 ha, and it just says Fear State begins, and I'm like, as an ending, that was a bit of a whimper. Like, it's just like,
I agree.
That's it. After all these teases for 6-7 issues of Batman being held captive by Scarecrow, he literally just breaks out of his ropes and runs. Like that easily. I don't know. It felt so sudden at the end of this issue.
I like the idea of Scarecrow. Oh no, I'm gonna have to get him back, or he's gonna ruin this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a bumbling villain, kind of deep down, like as badass as Scarecrow has become, he's still Scarecrow, and he's like, oh shit.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that he says to Simon at the start is that you're going to have to keep Batman distracted so that by the time he finds out that anything's going on, it's too late to stop it. Mm-hmm. And that's what he says at the end. You know, it's too late now. Like, it doesn't matter that Batman's ran away and, you know, got out. Like, it's too late. Like, he believes that, obviously. We're going to find, I assume, that there will be a way that he will save the day because it's, you know, comic books. But yeah. So that was the thing. The ending left me feel a little bit whimpery, and I felt like because of that, it does just kind of feel like a snapshot of everything start. I like how epic it makes a story feel overall by going around all these different characters and how they're all going to factor in some way. That's really neat. As an issue on its own, it's a little bit weak, especially given it doesn't really have a good ending. But I still say it's essential for the overall story, and it absolutely should be in the trade with the story as well as the Omega issue at the end.
Yeah,
but
100% it will be.
But on its own, I'd probably give it like a 7.
All right, I'm gonna go a little higher. I'm gonna give it 7.5.
Okay. Yeah, the art's good though, and I liked all the just all the build.
Yeah, I just love how the story's coming together. That's all. It's a feat that it's landing so well, and especially since I went back and read Catwoman, and that's all at play.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff showing up. So
I think that's the best way to put it. Is that it feels like it's coming together. So yeah, the ending was just such a whimper that it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth at the end. Yeah. So that's why it's getting a 7.
That's fair.
It's like no. Like this is just anticlimactic at the end. But hey ho, there you go. That's Batman Fear State Alpha issue 1. Wonder Girl issue 3. Joelle Jones, both writing and on art. So obviously it's been a little while since issue 2. It took me a second to remember what the hell was happening, because I'd forgotten about the arrow at the end of last issue where, you know, she was going to fall in love and all the rest of it. But yeah, so she just like came down with that plane that had a bit of an emergency landing, shall we say. And she's with is it Zhao?
Zhao.
Zhao, the name I can never remember. And they have a kissing moment, and then Eros shows up again with the arrow. And there's a bit of it gets into some mythology stuff here where she runs out into the jungle and there's all these big beings. Not that I'm complaining too much because the art in some of these is great. Like the crocodile looking one. It looks great.
Well, and we see her friend from the future state stuff too. So oh
yeah, but that's actually later when we cut back to them.
Okay.
I'm not seeing her yet. But
gotcha.
There's like a big sort of Sasquatch looking one with like a light bulb as a head. Like there's a whole bunch of things. But all that's really good in the art. And then we cut back to Cassie, who ends up teaming up with Artemis over the course of this issue as they're fighting the other, you know, Amazons, looking for Yara. And there's kind of an uneasy alliance that's formed here where Cassie's like, hey, you know, we're both looking for the same person. Maybe we should pull our resources, kind of thing.
You're Artemis. He's like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I love their dynamic here. She's like, you seemingly are good enough to be on your own. Let's team up and find this because it is in both of our best interests.
Yeah, I don't think I knew before this book started that Cassie was going to be a supporting character, but I've been very pleasantly surprised with her inclusion so far, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, so you come back to Yara. She's pulled out her weapon. Because I've also forgotten the name of it, as she has as well, because it's a joke.
Yeah.
Here.
It's like a bola lasso, you know, but I forget the name of it exactly. But you know, it's her lasso.
Yeah. I love the look in the face of the wolf creature
Uh-huh.
the girl looking kind of surprised when he's under attack. But obviously Zhao's completely confused by everything that's happening, doesn't know what's going on. But that's when Eros shows up again and actually says, "I never miss," and then just stabs her with the arrow by hand, and this makes her fall for him and stare into his eyes. And the art gets really cool here because like the faces kind of like become almost like complete shadows, almost like you're playing the game Limbo. I don't know if anyone's played the video game Limbo. It kind of looks like that almost for a split second, for a panel or two. And then Zhao's like, "What's going on? Why are you two being so pally right now?" And she's like, "I'll come back for you, I promise." It's actually this is when the friend from Future State shows up, the little character.
Yep, Kaipora.
Who was giving her like advice and kind of being this cheeky, character on her shoulder almost, telling her what to do. Saying, "You must stay, this is your destiny." And then the alligator creature talks. Like, I don't know if Connor would have insight into any of this mythology stuff. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here. But basically, she does agree to go with Eros. Because she's been pulled in three directions. Zhao's saying, "Come back to the living world." These creatures are saying, "Come into the mystical world of the jungle." But Eros is saying, "No, I've got something to show you. Come with me." And she even cries a little bit as she makes the choice. She goes with Eros, promises that she'll be back. And we do cut back to Cassie and Artemis at this point, who fight some more Amazons. It may even be the same Amazons at this point.
Yeah, they're the Amazonian Amazons.
The Amazonian Amazons, yes.
Yeah.
How could I forget that? So that's not confusing at all. But then we go to where Eros is taking Yara, which is Olympus. And the end of the issue is that he's going to introduce her to Hera. So we don't know what their motivations are as of yet. I think the key thing for me in this issue is that I don't necessarily understand all the mythology stuff. I will say though, it was a very easy read and the art was very, very pretty. And I'm still into the core important thing, which is the characters. Specifically, Yara herself and Cassie are kind of the anchors right now, where I'm enjoying their journey, I'm enjoying their story. I do think that by the end of this arc, it has to be a bit more solidified, where I have to understand what the goals are of the various parties involved of trying to get her. But at least right now, it is kind of this mystery of like, okay, why does everyone think she's so important? Maybe next issue is the time. Hera herself might be the one to tell her, "Hey, this is why you're a big deal, and this is why everyone's coming after you, and this is why these different forces want to lure you to their side or just kill you to stop you from doing whatever you're going to do." That's kind of where we need to be going soon. But
just because I want to know. So we know that Hera always, like, she's an enemy of the Amazons, right? Like, she's never gotten along with Diana, even before Diana was Zeus's actual daughter. So it's just, I wonder what the goal is here, because she wants Yara to be her champion, right? Like, she has great plans for her, because that's her new benefactress. And I think it's interesting too that Hera sent Eros and not Hermes, right? Because Hermes is traditionally the messenger of the gods. But so she sent, the god of love to come and so yeah, I don't know what the plan is 3 issues in, but I'm here for whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed the issue. It's kind of one of these things where I think on its own, because we've waited so long for it, because there was such a big gap between issue 2 and 3, is that it was hard to get back into it a little bit at the start, because it was like, oh, what the hell even happened last issue? But it did all come back like very quickly. Like once I saw the plane, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, and the arrow, and okay. I'm getting all the gist of it again. But it took a little bit of a minute. But I will say, like, so far, the one thing I'll say about these issues of Wonder Girl is that they have been so easy to read. They're so nice to look at. The dialogue is never overbearing. It's not too wordy. It feels just right. And and Yara, and by extension Cassie as well, are both so likable that it's very hard to look at this book before I read it and think anything other than, oh, this will be a nice easy time. This will be a pleasant experience because
it's almost too breezy. You know,
I mean, you could argue that.
I get to the end and I feel like there should be more, even though all the pages are full. Like there's nothing. I'm not getting ripped off, but I just like the way as quick as it moves, you know, and for the delays that it's had, which I'll wait for the delays. That's fine.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I just want more now. At the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, issue 1's, but the Future State issue is still my favorite issue of any like this Yara stuff yet. Issue 2 was probably the weakest issue of the 3. Not that I'm going to rank every issue of this as it comes out, but I'm just in the context of my own head, like I'm just thinking about where I feel about this as an individual issue, and it is good. But even saying it that way sounds like a negative. I don't mean it to. No. Because it is actually very good. It's just like, no, we need to sort of solidify like where we're going, and I guess do you know what this has? It has the pacing of something that's going to read wonderfully in trade. Like,
yep, 100%.
When you can read the first 6 issues of this back to back, this is going to be such an easy, quick 6-issue read, and it'll probably feel great when you read it that way. As a monthly book, it's a little, I don't want to say decompressed per se, because I wouldn't say that, or maybe a little bit, but it feels like something it's paced, leading a little bit more towards its trade than individual issues, but still very, very, very good. So what are you giving Wonder Girl issue 3?
8.5.
I'll just go with a solid 8. I'll go with a solid 8 for me. But there you go. Well, that's actually the last book. Believe it or not, we're already done with the books. But don't worry, we tangented for like half an hour at the start, so it's still over 2 hours long. No one's getting shortchanged.
And that 100-page was like 3 books in one. So
that's true.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. That takes us out of the part of the show. We pick our favorites of the week: favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and top 5 books. Or in this case, it'll be top 4 because there was only 4. So week 5. So weird week. What do you want from me? So we'll start off with a panel/moment. What do you have, Matt?
So it'd be easy to pull something from Wonder Girl, but in the sake of diversifying, I'm gonna go with the page that made me laugh, and that's of Bones in his old cool suit with the crashed remains, yelling at why am I drawing a blank on her name? Chase, thank you. That she messed everything up, and he looks like an evil skull pirate, and I love it.
Yeah, panel/moment for me. I think I probably have to go with an Aquaman, the Dan Waters story. I'm thinking when Orm's coming, he's just like a little figure in the middle of a storm coming for the shore. Really, really nice moment. That's a good one. I think that's what I have to go with this week. So there we go. Cover of the week. Do you have anything at the ready for that?
Oh yeah, it's the Wonder Girl variant.
I've not had a chance to look. Usually I look when there's a book when I've not read and it's just you or you and Connor talking. I'll look at all the covers, but obviously I didn't have a chance this week. Wonder Girl variant is very nice. That is for sure. I'm just double checking to see if there's anything else that I would rather pick because it's possible. What's this Batman?
I mean, there's a bunch of Aquaman ones too, right? Like.
Oh well, okay. I love that Wonder Girl variant is wonderful. No pun intended. But there is a Mattina Batman variant where Batman's up in a pole like a scarecrow, and it is like beautiful. So I'm gonna go with that.
There you go.
Mattina's an easy pick. It's very rare I don't pick a Mattina cover when there's one available, but easy choice this week for me. All right, best art of the week, Matt.
Wonder Girl.
Yeah, shout out to Federici because I thought that was very good too. But I'll also say Wonder Girl. I think that's the one.
All these Ivy covers I missed. Yet none of them are as good as that Wonder Girl variant. But I didn't look beforehand. All right,
rank your books, Matt.
Number 1, Wonder Girl. Number 2, Fear State. Number 3, Infinite Frontier. And a low 4, Aquaman.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go with Wonder Girl at number 1. And then I'll go with Fear State number 2, I think, and then Infinite Frontier number 3, and then Distant Fourth is the Aquaman special. Yeah, not an amazing week, and it wasn't like a terrible week by any means, but like everything, like Infinite Frontier, which I'm enjoying, Fear State stuff, which I'm really enjoying, Wonder Girl, which I'm really enjoying, they all had not their best issue, if that makes sense. So it feels a bit underwhelming as a week as a whole, but hey, you're going to have them sometimes. And it's a week 5, so it's not like there's a lot of other books to, rise above and be the special ones, but hey, it is what it is. But hey, I will tell you what is coming next week from DC Comics right now. So coming next week, we got Batman 112, so we get the first proper part of Fear State. Super exciting. We have Batman Catwoman issue 7. We have Infinite Frontier issue 6, so we get that. Oh man, next week's got some big books. Nice House in the Lake issue 4, Swamp Thing issue 7, Suicide Squad issue 7, Suicide Squad 2021 annual issue 1. I guess that got delayed because of all the delays. Green Lantern 2021 annual issue 1, that was meant to be this week and got pushed back, as well as Green Lantern issue 6, Blue and Gold issue 2, Suicide Squad Get Joker issue 2, Joker Presents the Puzzle Box issue 2, Justice League Infinity issue 3, Sensational Wonder Woman issue 7, Black Manta issue 1, Crushing Lobo issue 4, and Conjuring the Lover issue 4. So definitely the biggest week we've had in a little while next week. I mean, it's not like it's not like overwhelmingly big, but it's definitely bigger than any of the recent weeks, because we've had a few weeks with like 6 books, give or take. This is maybe more up in the 8 and 9 range, which is fine. So, but hey, that's what's coming next week. Yeah, I you know what? There's a lot to look forward to. I think Batman, Infinite Frontier, Nice House in the Lake, Swamp Thing, are all big stuff that I'm looking forward to.
For sure. And just to let you know, that's Jessica Cruz on the cover of the Green Lantern annual.
How about you go and fuck yourself?
No thanks. I think that's from The Hangover, where what's her name at the end tells him to go F himself, and he goes, "No, thank you."
I don't know. I've only seen that movie once, and it was mediocre, so I never watched that again.
Oh no, I love The Hangover. That movie makes me laugh. 10, 11 years later, there's some jokes that do not land.
So some dodgy.
Same with Monster Squad. Oh man, Monster Squad has some content that you're like, oh yeah, this is the late 80s.
Well, I mean, at least when you go back to the 80s and early 90s, like it's decades ago, so you expect stuff to have not. But I mean, Hangover's only over a decade old. Like that should not be that aged if it's.
Yeah, there's certain things. I mean, not the whole thing, but there's certain jokes.
Are we talking sexism and homophobia? Are those the topics?
Not so much the sexism, definitely the homophobia.
Definitely, okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. I'm not going to watch it to find out myself. So
yeah, I mean, it does have Alan when Ed Helms is freaking out about marrying a stripper, and he yells, "Hey, she's a nice lady," like
It's all right. Sorry, Matt.
Still good moments.
I know you have bad taste in comedies. It's fine.
I do not.
Yes, you do.
No, I have great taste in comedy. Thank you.
You like Jackass? I rest my case. So,
yes, 100%.
I rest my case.
I'm so sad.
The case is rested.
If you can't watch a dude get hit in the nuts and laugh, I don't know, Pete. You remember we had dueling reviews for Bad Grandpa?
I did remember that. That was an atrocious film. It was terrible.
That was great. He got a fake wiener stuck in a.
It was unbearably unfunny, is what that movie was.
No.
It was so stupid.
They threw Grandma's dead body into the river.
That was. It was like a really bad attempt at Borat, is what that was. It was like a crappy Jackass version of Borat.
At least you find Borat funny. There's that.
Well, Borat is funny, and Borat, especially, I thought the second one was an even better movie, because the second one had more of an arc. It had like a nice moral to it, at top of all the satire and the comedies it obviously already had. But anyway, there you go. That's what's coming next week from DC Comics. Obviously not Borat, or bad grandpa,
No.
but what I said before. So
Very nice.
very nice. High five.
My brother used to sit on any elevated surface and yell, "King in the castle, king in the castle." He was like 12 at the time, so it landed even better.
I have a chair.
Good talk, good talk. Hey, give us that list of Patreon names.
Yes, I should thank our patrons for the month. Our Patreon producers specifically. Thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Bordenau, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley.
Stanley, Excelsior.
I wonder if he loves or hates that you do that. I'm curious. He's not complained, so
That means he loves it.
he's probably cool with it. But I'm almost hoping for a complaint, just so I can give you shit for it. But yes,
if you give me shit for it, I'm just gonna do it more.
That's true.
That's how I operate.
But that is our Patreon producers. But thank you to all our patrons, of course. You can support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and help keep all the content coming. You can, of course, support everything we do completely for free, though, with some simple little things. If you're watching on YouTube, on the Comics From The Multiverse channel, simply hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Ding the bell for notifications. All those things do help out a lot on YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes or whatever podcast app you're using, if you can give us a 5-star review on there, that'd be great. It helps us out a lot. And also share us out. Get us on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast. And I should also mention, I should promote some content that is started this week. One of our loyal long-term listeners, David, who does a little bit of work on the YouTube channel. He's the one who splits up the show for the individual videos because he's a kind soul. But he had this crazy idea because for some reason he decided to buy and this took him a while, right? But over a number of years, he bought every single trade for the New 52. Every single series that came out in the New 52, he purchased in trade.
Man.
And he hadn't read any of it yet. He had stacks and stacks of these trades and he hadn't read any of them yet. And he says, I've got this idea. I want to do a show which is basically a one-man Comics From The Multiverse where he reads every single New 52 book exactly 10 years after they came out. So the first episode, which is very short, because that first week, if you remember back to the start of New 52, that first week was just Justice League 1, right? That was the first week.
Yep.
So that first episode 0 is what he called it. Went up on YouTube this week. There is now an audio feed as well. If you search the Not So New 52 is the title of the show. If you search for that on iTunes or wherever, you should find it now. You can find it on the Comics From The Multiverse YouTube channel, of course. So that would up. So I think that'll be... Is that going to be every Tuesday? That's kind of funny how it's worked out that the new comic book day now is exactly the same as it was back then. But obviously it was weird. Wednesday back then. Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, so it was Tuesday anyway this week. So I presume it'll still be on Tuesdays.
He's a madman. He's willful. We did not know. He knows.
I know. You know what's so funny about it is that the first one's like 16 minutes because it's just that one issue. It's kind of, but he put a little bit of effort into it. There's some editing at the start. There's a nice little sort of bit of like setup for it, right? But at the end of it, he does what we do at the end of this. He gives the list of what's coming next week, and it's 13 books.
Yeah,
he's going to read.
The thing. There's 13 books every week.
Yeah,
so for 52 books a month. Yeah,
for quite some time. Eventually, it went a little bit lower than that, but it stayed at 52 a month for a long time.
Yeah.
So, he's a madman. He's a raving madman. But check it out. Check it out. So yes, and our Patreon producers get credited at the end of that as well because we're distributing the show. It's under the Mail Fuzz Comics From The Multiverse banner. But that is David that's doing that. So go and check out the new show. If you're interested in someone suffering through the New 52, because I wasn't going to sign up for it. Maybe I'll cameo occasionally as a joke or something, but I ain't working through all that shit again. You kidding me? But there you go. That's the show. That's episode 269.
Nice. Just gonna get it in there.
It's not even just 69 though. It's 269.
Nice. Doesn't matter.
Is it? I mean, are you reading this as like there's 269s happening side by side?
Double the trouble. I really, my stomach's bubbling, man. We gotta wrap this up.
Are you hungry? You ready to?
No, the other.
Oh,
thing.
the opposite. You.
Yeah.
It's time to evacuate. Okay.
Oh yeah, my house might have to evacuate if I don't make it.
This has been Comics from the Multiverse. Thank you for joining us. If you happen to be into wrestling, enjoy All Out this weekend, which is happening. Exciting. I'm looking forward to it. So, that's what's happening this Sunday night. But thank you very much for joining us once again. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.